Somehow, a man who was considered the strongest lived for himself for a long time, and he always wore ancient clothes. He was called the Swordmaster, the owner of the blade. To show his skill, he did not stop testing himself, asking if he really became the best. It seemed that the victory was already in his hands. But someone said confidently, "It not only seems, this is true." He really managed to win, and now he rose to the top of possession of the sword. The dragon led further. They say that if someone is able to defeat as powerful as he is, already a great respect. Then he asked the hero whether there were any dreams or requests. This man was the only one who was able to impress the dragon. Therefore, the latter that the dragon wanted is to fulfill his desire. But the hero refused. Death was already close, and the most cherished desire came true. He was happy. And what about magic? She has been forgotten here for a long time, because this world has learned to live without it. Even if he remained alive, he would still not want to master magic. Maybe only if he had a chance to start over, be born again. At that moment he realized what the dragon really wanted. The hero woke up unexpectedly, as if escaping from a deep nap. At that moment it came. The anxious feeling that did not give him rest was real. He was really born again. But now it is no longer important. Indeed, everything was different. Today he is 6 years old. This is the same day when he learns about his special abilities. Skills, and talents not just show our strengths, and they open new ways to him. Earlier in his world this was not the case. Now it has become a true extent for him. It was with these thoughts that he saw his sister. She was called Lena. He also wished her a good morning. She congratulated him on her birthday and sincerely wished. The man felt that this day did not expect anything special. The sister assured that she should not worry. The catfish confessed. He feels more curiosity than excitement. Lena would not be surprised if the older brother had several skills, even 3 or 4. But Sam was most pleased with the fact that he would soon be able to immerse himself in the study of magic. Yes, it was real magic. What he always dreamed of in his past life is now real. As soon as he learns what his ability has, he will immediately begin to learn new. The only thing that bothers him now is whether he can hide his admiration. Lena was also looking forward to see what magic he took, and Sam had already burst out of curiosity that he was barely waiting for what his ability received. But the words he heard from his mother were greatly impressed. She said it again, and he could not believe her. It doesn't matter if it is martial arts or magic, nothing is given. He has no ability at all of this. He once told his teacher that he wanted to master magic. She smiled and said, "If it's really your desire, you will definitely learn it." After learning that he has no talent, the catfish did not remove at all. He did not consider it a disaster. This is what he looks like. Although everyone considered him a genius, he did not think so. In half a year, he mastered the school program that others have been teaching for 3 years. He was only 5 years old. He just knew all this for a long time. He never wondered whether they consider him a genius, because he had all his knowledge from his past life. But the news that without much talent magic is closed for him was very painful. Will you have to give up a dream? No. There is always a chance. Skills are just a reflection of talent, but if not, it does not make a person talentless. Everyone can learn to own a sword. It was also the case that those who did not have the skills won even the most gifted. It may be only exceptions, but they really happened. Even exceptions also belong to the truth. Now he is waiting for a new trial. Here, in this world. Just as he once met with a dragon. With a stick in his hand, the guy brought it directly to a large tree, which has grown in this place for over 100 years. This young man, he will not be able to learn to own a spear or a bow, will not be able to fight reprimand or to master even simple combat skills. Even the sword does not obey. The only thing he knows is some kind of strange and at first glance, the meaningless ability that is associated with sounds. The guy realized that even with this girl would be able to master magic, and would do it faster than others. And it is from this point that the history of the strongest in the world begins. Now all you have to do is learn how to use magic. He was convinced that one day it would definitely happen, thinking about it when he fell to the ground. It was at this moment that a stranger suddenly came to him. She always thought she was not happy. But the sinister forest caused her awe. There was no person around. Complete silence. Apparently, she was not mistaken when she decided to come here. The strange sound was still heard. Standing in place is unlikely to help. It is better to go and find out what happened. Suddenly, a tree cracked nearby and collapsed to the ground. Did it happen quite near? People said that strange creatures could appear in this forest. She was convinced that she would not meet any soul here. So why do everything around seem so unusual and disturbing? It seemed to her that someone had attacked her. But it seems that it was only a feeling. What happened? The cut looked too neat. It was clearly not wrought. At that moment she heard a voice from which she was horrified. Having lost, the girl accidentally stepped on someone's head. Seeing the baby, she was confused and embarrassed. When the guy did not respond, it seemed that he was probably dead. The catfish asked her to stop trampling on it. She retreated in surprise, frightened that he was still alive. The guy explained. He did not die, just now unable to move. It is difficult to explain, but the reason is in the abilities that have left his past life. It was probably not the best idea to use them without preparation. The girl wondered what he was doing here. She really was wondering how he was in such a situation. She thought he was probably wounded, but he looked quite alive and energetic. The catfish explained that now can only say nothing more. However, if at least a day or two rest, it may be easier. She was very surprised that he decided to stay here in the forest, even in such a state. Which side do not look from? This situation seems suspicious. Moreover, he is alone here. Maybe you just have to stay away and not interfere. The girl offered her help, but the catfish at first refused. Then she said it would make people think of him badly. So it's better to just thank you. The guy thanked her sincerely. She took her eyes embarrassed because he stood too close. Who is this guy actually? In the middle of the dark and mysterious forest, they went together. She did not ask him to go. It was too difficult for her. The catfish realized everything happened at all as he expected. The muscles hurt so much that it seemed it would just fall. He felt the forces left the body. Fortunately, she came to his aid. But her name remains a mystery to him. If the fate gives another meeting, he will definitely tell her thank you. Camilla General, a girl who had a unique gift to see the ability of others, went into the room. She noticed that the guy began to look better and asked if he was worried. The guy replied that everything was fine, just a little tired. Camilla admitted that she could not help now. Even the book will not be able to read. However, the main thing for him is that she visits him daily. By the way, Mom came only on the first day. She is still worried. Therefore, Soma suggested that Camilla to give him some work. She was a teacher. Although she did not know how much the guy had already mastered, it did not have any problem for him. He is only interested in magic, though he has not learned anything about it. Camilla was not yet sure, but the catfish smiled and promised that he was ready for everything to understand magic better. Hearing such words, the teacher decided to prepare a special task for him, which he would look forward to. A week passed, and the catfish finally recovered. What to do next? He stopped for a moment, thinking about what to do. Outside, the morning began. It is necessary to take up daily affairs again. The body has weakened, and now you have to regain your former force. Camille seemed to be successful. She was already a home mentor. However, it suddenly caught her more trouble than she thought. It all started with the usual testing of skills. She simply performed her duties. She was evaluated. However, when she saw the result, she remained dissatisfied. His life is completely destroyed. Although he is the heir to the Duchesh family, now he is not even allowed to live. He thinks that if he was not born here, not in this country, not in this family, and if he was evaluated otherwise, everything could have happened differently. He had a chance for a happy life. Since then, Camilla has not left a sense of guilt. She decided to become a mentor for him, replacing all other teachers on this role. But the matter was not only this, but to understand what he had already learned. Before him, they laid books over all 10 school years. The girl did not believe that all other teachers treated him with hatred. She could not understand what he so blamed for them. How to teach it now? However, she quickly understood. In vain to look for answers, reflections will not change anything. Camilla wanted to slide a little, and quite unexpectedly came across the pad. The guy greeted her and said in surprise that it was interesting to meet here. The girl was truly impressed with such an unexpected meeting, and could not understand why he was here. He said that doing everything as usual. But suddenly he remembered. He was here before. And here he remembered her mother's words. She did not allow you to come here. She really forbidden to do it. But he does not remember that he would ever promise to listen to her words. Camilla decided that this place was not as scary as it seemed at first. But in a moment she remembered. He was forbidden to leave his room. How could he pass by the guards? When asked, he calmly replied that as always he simply slipped unnoticed. Camilla realized that after he did not work with his skills, the guards stopped taking him seriously. Sitting at home was a difficult test for her. At this point, the idea of training was just mentioned, and she suggested that he go with her. She was interested in finding out what Catfish did daily. And for Catfish, training with the sword was a common matter in which he saw nothing unusual. Then Camilla decided to offer fencing assistance. Although it is not her main skill, she will cope with the fighting axe no worse. And the Catfish was already ready to accept her support. Although the swords were not her strongest side, the guy was holding well enough. Camilla proposed to use free time for short workout. It will only be easy training, during which it will definitely not cause him harm. The guy has not yet completely recovered. In addition, her axe is real, not wooden as his sword. It allows him to start the fight first. The Catfish nodded as a sign of consent, and Camilla immediately signals, "You can start." And at the same moment, she fell to the ground, not having time and blinking her eye. She froze from surprise. She did not expect it. The Catfish noticed that the girl was holding back himself. She promised a simple sparring, but even it did not come. Camilla laughed and apologized because she did not understand how it could have happened. She was convinced that he was still too weak, so she did not care. No matter what, the Catfish asked her not to restrain herself. He understood why she did so. It was difficult to overcome the difference between the axe of the axe and those who have no skills. It's natural. This time, Camilla was going to show everything that she was capable of. Her skills of high level, and in her business, she is almost brilliant. But then, how this guy who has no skills at all can resist her? There was a clear mistake here. She wanted to just work a little, she didn't plan anything serious. This is a strange story that is difficult to understand and accept. She is well aware of everything. Her body, her heart, even the smallest memories, everything tells her about it. Now she will have to give all her strength. Even if she just a regular guy without any talents will change nothing. After all, it is a true swordmaster right in front of her. Camilla noticed that the Catfish was looking at her as if she were calling her to act. In his view, there was boldness, and fear is not visible. The girl dared to show all her abilities. Once, a gentle Camilla became a real warrior who was ready to do everything to defeat the boy. He easily beat her blow, remaining absolutely calm. The battle became more and more tense. It seems that it really began to bring him pleasure. If he can hold back the combat axe with a simple wooden stick, what are the forces hidden in it? Who is a foolish one who dared to attack an experienced warrior with an axe? But the difference in level between us is obvious. If this is not the case, then maybe my assessment of abilities was false. Camilla took herself in her hands and decided not to retreat. This collision was truly grand. They have been fighting for more than 5 minutes. It was shocked because their forces are quite uneven. She had to attack again and again. Once Camilla has already broken the fate of one young girl. That is why she no longer was to evaluate someone's ability. Despite everything that happened, Sophia remained her friend. She suggested forgetting the past and living on. But now she has a new life and her own son. If the system of skills has fallen it, and through its evaluation of life has become a disaster, it will begin to hate this system. Camilla realized that she was trapped, which she created for herself through her decisions. She had no idea that it would end that way. Her strength was no longer left. She fell to the ground. The Catfish was under her, and feeling guilty, sincerely apologized. He acknowledged that he was too daring, and he is ashamed of his behavior. The last blow was some strange. Camilla wondered if the Catfish really tried. He honestly said he just thought, and distracted. And at that moment, she realized he again forced himself to go forward, without even waiting until she finally recovers. The Catfish felt that he had rest enough. Camilla understood his hint and realized that it was no longer possible to take time. Her break is over. He believes that it is time to take things up again. The leader cannot just disappear when he pleases. But if she really has an important job, he will allow her to leave. The girl asked. The guy thought it was worth telling her. All this time she lies just on him. But Camilla had another plan. First to teach him how to respect girls, and so she was not even going to get up, and on the contrary, even more pressed him to the floor. At that moment, Camilla turned and said that they were no longer appearing in this forest, but reminded not of being late for the lessons. The Catfish only assured her that it was not necessary to worry. The guy realized that he still needed to learn much. He was inattentive, released a sword from his hands, and now realized his inexperience. He already realized that it is here. Now there's no point in hiding. The girl looked out of the tree and asked in surprise how he guessed her presence. The catfish calmly replied that he just felt she was nearby. It has passed exactly since they first met. He wanted to thank her again, because then she saved his life. The girl believed that she did not need to thank, so she took a confused eye to the side. Still, the catfish thanked. He understood that this is the only thing he could and should do now. Suddenly, he remembered that he had not even learned her name. He just didn't ask him. However, I still wonder. His name is Catfish, although she can turn to him how comfortable she is. He wants to know how to contact her if you ever have. If she is uncomfortable to call her name, she can invent a nickname. The girl said her name Ain, but allowed him to turn to her as he was comfortable. Then he decided he would call her just Anna. She was surprised, but the catfish reminded her that she had allowed it. If this is really a problem, he can turn differently. But Anna assured that it doesn't matter to her. So, in response, she also decided to cut his name and name Catfish. He was worried about his peace, but she decided not to pay attention to it. Time was to complete this conversation. The guy could not understand why she was so angry. However, she told her again, if some trouble happens, she can turn to him. He is always ready to help. The catfish said she had helped him last week, so now he wanted to pay her to her. But Anna said that he was not guilty of her. She helped simply because she felt so. Catfish understands, and that is why he wants to thank, because he wants this. The girl smiled. From the moment of the first meeting, he could not throw this opinion from his head, and not in vain. Her smile really suits her. Anna even asked him to say it again. The catfish sincerely confessed to the girl that she was very sweet when she smiles. His words were so embarrassed that she did not know where to go. Soma, with a smile, said, "You are really very sweet, it's I say quite seriously." Ayin, from embarrassment, was red and asked him to stop. In the meantime, a new month began. At this point, the guy noted that Camilla was behaving somehow unusual. However, she quickly reassured him, saying that there was nothing to worry about. She just wanted to find out how things were going on, but she was very surprised. It turns out that he really read all those books. He has so much time. When asked what had happened, she just replied that everything was well. So, returning to the lesson, Camilla suggested starting with a topic concerning their home. She meant to tell about the history of this place and its geography. The catfish immediately realized her intention. So the girl suggested starting with a story about the evil forest. The catfish noted that it often happens in different places. So she asked him if he knew why this forest was called evil. In fact, everything is quite simple here. This forest marks the limit of magical lands. Once upon a time, it was from here that magicians began their attacks. It is dangerous here, eh? They have talked for a long time. Maybe he wants to say that it is really safe here? As expected, the guy did not notice any signs of magicians in the forest. There was a full silence around. There was no sign of life. Everyone wondered, why was such a beautiful and luxurious estate built here in such a depth? If you think it is a borderland, everything becomes clear. It looks like this family was instructed to protect the extreme borders. Camilla noted that the catfish immediately grabbed everything. She has not yet had time to tell him about the structure of royal families, as he already understood everything himself, simply because he was interested. The catfish remembered how one of his former teachers had already talked about it. He felt this place reminded him of the world in which he lived earlier. Camilla asked him what he knew about the magicians. The guy was able to recall only the gossip he heard earlier, allegedly magicians of mankind. However, he was not sure of it. It's really like a regular baby horror story. But Camilla realized that everything was much more serious. The catfish guessed that the magicians were just foreigners, or even heretics. For some reason, they decided to oppose their country. Having united with other exiles, they founded a separate state that became an hostile organization. Camilla agreed that it was really like the truth. With every minute she increasingly understood what he was smart. He knows how to look at things differently than everyone. Even his former teacher was pleasantly surprised. That is why he was hidden from him so that she could make his own opinion about him. But after that chaotic battle, she had to see everything in her own experience, along with all the consequences. Be that as it may, the magicians really have said. They are really very dangerous. Usually these are people with incredible abilities. It is said that even for battle with the most relevant magician, you need to have at least average skills. A simple soldier does not overcome his own. However, it was a little embarrassed. She said that magicians have nothing to do with the skills system. So why believe they are stronger because of this difference? Maybe they are really strong. But no one knows whether they use any special skills or black magic. All this is only assumptions, although they are perceived as something proven. For the country to remain strong and independent, people begin to appreciate their skills. Subsequently, the abilities became the most important in society. The catfish realized that the eldest son of a royal family, who takes care of the border area, simply could not remain without any important skills. Camilla nodded and agreed. So it is. She knew that she had every reason to give him the right to hate it. But the guy could not understand. What exactly? She said that if she had snapped and changed the rating a little, his fate could have happened differently. He would stay in the family. The catfish realized. Now she believes that she deserves hatred only because she has told the truth. But it is quite senseless. And in general, this assessment is not very important. Camilla could not understand how possible. It is because of her that his life has changed dramatically. The catfish calmly replied that he was still interested in magic, but nevertheless, it cannot be said that it is not important. Perhaps it is really worth wearing her. It was thanks to her evaluation that he was able to escape from the tenets of the family and can now focus quietly on learning magic. Camilla was clear and smiled affectionately. She decided, if he wanted so much, she should know all the ways of mastering magic. Another year has passed. The catfish tried again to call the spell, but everything was in vain. Nothing happened. Lena has seen many times how he repeats the same thing again and again. Everything remained unchanged. However, the guy was convinced that even in such an unsuccessful workout, he studied something. Without attempts and research, nowhere. Lena thought it was a futile business. But the catfish from the very beginning understood. The path to magic will be difficult, and in that he was not mistaken. He does not chase after the instant result. He just deals with what he likes, even if he does not bring success. Suddenly, Ain wondered, "Do you think all this is worth our efforts?" The catfish thought, if all efforts are important only the result, then without it all efforts lose meaning. Lena supported him and said that no matter how you try, you still feel futility without a result. Soma agreed that in terms of benefit is true. But, he said, it is important to be able to see the true value of effort, which is another matter. The result is only one of the many criteria. One single action can run a whole chain of events. Even a step that seemed meaningless or hopeless sometimes becomes of great importance. There are often such unexpected cases in the world. Lena doubted whether it was clear. He seemed to say somehow unclear. To better explain, the catfish mentioned today's workout. He confessed that he had no clear expectations of this activity. It really surprised the girl. However, the catfish was convinced that today's training was important and worth it. The main thing in this conversation is that it helped them get closer to each other. Lena was confused and blushed. During this year, her interest in him gradually joined his daily life. Soma thought, is this soft smile on her face means that she finally started trusting him? Until now she listened more, and she was cautious. Anna realized that he just gives her time to relax. Without that, they would never have been able to talk frankly. The girl nodded back. She herself realized that she was looking suspicious. Whether she is in the place of the boy too, she would not trust herself. But he did not want to say that he really did not trust her. Aina відповіла, що з нею все добре. She was sure that he would understand her correctly. Unexpectedly changing the conversation, she confessed. She just wanted to understand that he was worried. In any case, the catfish saw that she had thought of something. He reminded her of her promise. If there are problems, he is always ready to come to the rescue. He sighed deeply and waited patiently until she was finally talking. It is considered to be a real failure. It happened at a time when the catfish abilities were checked for the first time. She also passed her own check. It was a kind of ritual of adulthood, and she couldn't cope. It all testified that she has no special abilities, but it happened quite differently. She found a rare magical skill. It turned out that it has a special level. The catfish first decided that the girl was just boasting, but she immediately denied. It is not true. The guy joked, but still could not understand in any way. What is it considered worthless? Lena said that everyone was fond of her unusual talent. However, a little unexpected happened on the eve of the holiday. It became clear immediately. It is not at all capable of using magic. This is not the skill that you can get later by learning something else. If you have a special skill, you can use it without delay. But in this country, few people are engaged in magical research, so it is probably the reason. Somi was unusual that her magic was not working. Now he understood why others called her in vain. He became wondering what it looked like for outsiders when she tried to spell. Lena decided to demonstrate it. The guy watched closely at what she was doing. Everyone was convincing Ain that she was acting properly, so when her spell suddenly did not work, everyone was genuinely surprised. Aina studied carefully, tried different ways, and so many times. 3 days, then a week, even a month has passed. But everything was in vain. Even now nothing works, and the catfish finally realized what the real problem was. He wanted to see one thing. If no one knows why she has no strength to spell, then nothing surprise has not become noticeable. But the girl assured that if they had noticed something, they would certainly corrected it. But the catfish quickly realized, in fact they did not notice anything. They may just haven't noticed it. The catfish said, "If it was possible to cut, we would see everything." Aina did not understand what he meant. When the guy did something unexpected, the girl shuddered with surprise. The catfish only said calmly, "It's all right. But what will we do next?" He now suggested that she try to use magic again. Ain had no idea that it could actually work, and suddenly a flame broke out before his eyes. The girl tried again. She burst into tears and thanked him. Although she did not understand what he did, she was sure he accurately helped. She thanked once again. The catfish asked her not to be upset, said that if she did not cry, he would feel happy. So, he not only helped her cope with difficulties, but he was able to move further. However, he still has one question to the teacher. Does magic really not weak over the years? Camilla nodded and said that they were usually saying. But she explained that the main thing is to make efforts. The catfish noticed that the power of magic was not diminishing. If you do not have enough skills, the attack will not work. It remains only to evade. But recently, he saw the magical power really weakened. Ain was the highest level Magan. If her spell did not work, then it was a serious reason. Camilla told her that sometimes there were exceptions. People with a special class often do not have ordinary laws. It does not surprise anyone. Sometimes there is something that cannot be explained. The catfish thought about it. Camilla thought that a weird idea appeared in the catfish again. The catfish did not understand why she said again. However, if the chosen classes can really be said by Camilla, they may be able to teach him witchcraft. That is, it is able to teach it to use magic. Ain could not understand how he came to such a conclusion. Yes, special classes are really strange. The same yesterday she created real miracles, isn't it? So if he asks him to teach him something that he is not quite sure, but no matter how cool it has already happened, it really used magic. Even if she taught him at least for some reason, it could already be considered a good result. Aina realized that if he thinks she has a debt for him yesterday, she just had no choice. Вона веліла йому підвестися, наповнити долоню магією і щось вимовити. But the catfish stopped it for half a word. He asked if the ability to charge the palm means possession of magic. Aina replied that magic is just magic. But if he cannot concentrate it in his hand, then how does he plan to use it at all? The catfish thought that if he did not feel magic, he would not be able to understand its essence. If only there was a way to feel this power. Aina felt something unlawful and alert. She asked some, "What do you want to do?" The catfish replied honestly, "Let her send all her magic to him, and then he will understand what it is about." He spoke sincerely and without jokes. The girl realized that it was in vain to try to convince him. He will still not listen. Вона подумала, що все обійдеться, просто доведеться трохи потерпіти біль. Aina released a flame. She obeyed her orders and had to clear the path, burning dust and any obstacles in front of her. As it was worth it, the catfish did not understand anything. Suddenly, Ain suddenly launches a fiery arrow. He remained struck. But if the catfish could cut her magic, he could find out much more. His actions were always amazed at all, or made a strong impression. Хлопець усвідомив, що його звичний спосіб дій цього разу не допоміг. He needs to think well. Aina asked angrily if he realized what he had done. The catfish thought he was able to easily disassemble her spell into components. Aina thought differently. If he so just destroyed magic, then this guy is really extraordinary. It is only her guess. However, the catfish was convinced that it was as easy for him as cutting the air. Aina insists, "Nothing is simpler than just cut the air." The catfish sighed heavily, realizing that this time it did not work. You need to come up with another way. It was at this moment that he saw his sister. The girl was calm and turned to him. The catfish was glad to see that all is well with Lena, but inside he was a little upset, because he would like her to turn to him brother. However, Lena said she could not call him so. Noticing she was tired, he suggested that her take a little stroll. When did they last walk together on the street? The girl could not hide her excitement. Her body was shaking. "Maybe we will try again?" he suggested. Lena felt tension and spoke in a different tone. She sincerely thanks for his attention, however. Despite the attractive offer, she does not find time at all. He had to give up a waste of work. "Maybe it is better to find a useful activity yourself." In her voice, there was indecision. Every minute was extremely valuable, so she immediately apologized. The catfish shared with Camilla to all that happened. He thought it was a difficult time for Lena, or she just started hating him and he didn't notice it. However, he still sought to share with her that he had in his soul. Camilla agreed that her words were a little sharp. However, she believes that he can still cope with it. Everything turned on this day. On her 5th birthday, Lena hoped for a regular, quiet holiday. But this time it was to become special and the most joyful for her. Finally, catfish abilities were fully recognized. Lena sincerely hoped that her brother would manage herself in military affairs and would become a master of martial arts. Now she was convinced that he had not only a great future, but also the true glory of a talented man. She noted that the catfish disappeared and went in search of him. Lena decided to seek advice from her mother. As soon as she said the name of the catfish, her mother immediately invited her to her office. She said that laziness should now look like her brother. And to be more accurate, Lena's brother was never. Lena tried to remain calm and not to show her emotions. On that day, all her childhood dreams crashed into pieces. However, she still dreams of the same dream. She runs after her brother, who disappears in the bushes. She understands that she would not have to see it, but she cannot restrain his curiosity, and wants to know why he wanted to escape so much. His figure slowly dissolves among the trees, disappearing in the shade of the forest. People came to the girl. The teacher, with an expression of dissatisfaction on her face, wondered if Lena listened carefully. Lena assured she was listening. Then the woman reminded that peace in the country was thanks to her dad and mom. The teacher said it is good if Lena listened and asked her to prepare for the lesson. But she added that if she did not want to become the same talent. Here, Lena stopped her sharply and asked to pick up the words. The woman sighed and said quietly, "It does not exist," and then she agreed. That is why Lena should become a special leader, a real heir to the Numa family. Lena is well aware of the situation. Previously, this place had to occupy catfish, but it was not the person you needed. The teacher summed up. Fortunately, Lena has incredible abilities. It is special. Her main talent is fencing, the same as that of her father, the legendary sword, Sir Kluk. Once upon a time he became interested in this art, but all this was not true and so unfair. Lena can't pretend that nothing has happened, but as a heir, she had to pretend that there was no brother at all. This is how her family decided. And the more meaningless this condition seemed, the more difficult it was to simply imagine a carefree elf that lives somewhere in the huts. She couldn't take it. Even if it removes every mention and destroys all memories, she still won't be able to get rid of it. Yes, get rid of... It would be great if I could really wipe and forget everything. It walks after the cattle, heading through the forest. Everything happens exactly as it predicted. In the meantime, the catfish did not know what to invent at this moment. Lena was surprised to follow the one he was talking to. They have a conversation about magic. He seemed to try to feel her strength, but it was reminiscent of an unsuccessful attempt to burn right in place. Lena looked at it and felt the annoyance boils in it. She listened quietly to the conversation and thought of who this girl could be. Suddenly, some noise came from the bushes, too loud to go unnoticed. The girl at the same moment disappeared from her eyes. He looked down where she had just stood. She had no idea that she could notice. Even in a large estate, she always went unnoticed. She recalled that he had already seen her last time, but Lena reassured herself, thinking that this time it was only an accident. Ain felt something, and the catfish never found words to explain everything. Він поцікавився, чи не відчуває вона присутності ще когось поряд. Aina looked around and said confidently that no one was here. Both looked carefully in the direction of the bushes. And then the catfish confidently reached out to his sister. Aina couldn't believe her eyes of surprise. She was convinced that the place is empty. Lena also did not hope that he would pay attention to her. She waved awkwardly as a sign of greeting. The catfish proposed to arrange a small competition, just as they did it before. Lena agreed with a nod. Then he asked Ain to go back a little. This bezel is actually just a wooden stick, which he takes for fencing training. If it is so, Lena realized that the catfish remained the same. Nothing changed. He still does not understand anything, as before. Then, full of confidence, he performed those weird dances. Indeed, everything is as before. He is not at all like a battle rack. He just stands as if he poses. For her, an experienced fencer, it looks very funny. So it's a real shame, isn't it? But still, Lena decided to end this humiliating position once and for all. The duel between the catfish and the Laza began. Lena, who was distinguished among others with her special status, was the first to break the silence. Her strength is so huge that few people are able to master it. It resembles a natural element, unpredictable and powerful. However, this force enables him to stay alive. After all, even a simple stick can cause a deadly wound. The girl has almost caused a successful blow, but suddenly something pushed her away and the attempt failed. Lena was stunned. How is it possible for someone to be able to interfere with her without outstanding abilities? She did not believe it was just an accident or a happy coincidence. The catfish sighed and reminded everyone that it was just a game. It was angry even more. She decided that he was mocking her and rushed forward. She brought his fist, ready to hit, but he continued to stand calmly, without frightening. Lena did not believe her eyes. This should not happen. If everything happens that way, then it may be useless. His skills, her status, and how she behaves. Lena again gathered all her strength and struck. The catfish acknowledged that everything went well, but added that it was necessary to work a little. The girl could not stop. Throughout the year, adults, teachers, and even her mom have always been around and cheered her. Yet, in fact, she did not feel happy. The catfish thought that she may not have had a real experience in combat sparring, and wanted to ask about it. Lena agreed, because there was no person nearby who would be equal to her special status. And it was at this moment she realized. She felt envy. The battle continued. She trained carefully throughout the year, suffered all the difficulties, and even improved her skills in fencing. The catfish noted that the movements were skilled, but the last step revealed her real plan. And Lena thought that everything was in vain. The whole year of effort has not brought anything. Is this really true? But now she did not doubt. She will work out. She gathered all her residual strength and continued the struggle. The catfish again managed to stop her offensive. Lena tiredly fell to the ground. Her forces were exhausted, and this time she really was defeated. The guy confessed that her last blow was really impressive. In fact, she almost won. Her fencing skills increased, and Soma believed that she had a real talent. At that moment, Lena's heart became gentle and warm. He said that I had a real talent to own a sword. She realized everything she dreamed of and mentioned earlier was a reality. Her older brother is really just her brother. The catfish realized how important it is to do sparring with a partner. His forces are already exhausted, and it becomes more difficult to train alone. And suddenly, he would have a permanent partner for training? Lena suddenly turned to him. She decided to become his partner. Meanwhile, Ain was already preparing to go home. Lena thought it was because of her, but Ain immediately denied it. The catfish was upset because he wanted to try something more. But Aina decided that after his strange ideas, for example, pouring magic in her head, today there are enough experiments. The catfish replied that he behaved as usual. But Aina noted that if you are constantly risking with dangerous things, the likelihood of problems is only increasing. But the catfish decided, if the usual methods do not work, it is worth the risk. Lena smiled. It really looked like him. Ain also noticed it. In this, they resembled each other. The boys said goodbye and decided to see again the next day. Aina suddenly realized that it happened suddenly. This is really a special level. A person with such skill could be considered a true talent. But most of all, she was struck by the fact that Soma was so easy to defeat her. Ain, even if she was a special class, would still have no chance of resisting a swordsman like Catfish. Yet the guy insisted that he was taught to witchcraft. A cunning smile flashed on her face. She was genuinely pleased that fate brought her from the Catfish. She had never worried about anything like that. Finally, someone found her. The guy was looking for a girl and did not think he would meet her here. The girl realized who was standing in front of her. It was Albert. He also noted that a lot of time has passed from their last meeting. It became known that Ain is actually a princess. Throughout this time, the secret society remained hidden from all over the world, managing the shadows. One of the accomplices shared with the other in that he had to see a few days ago. Then they realized that they could no longer hide, and decided to finally show themselves to the world. All this is done for the sake of the King of Magicians. Lena and Soma went to the training ground to work together. The girl was amazed. She managed to make him defend himself from a blow, and it seemed incredible. However, Soma did not see any sense in this if she decides to stop right now. Lena just wanted to make him defend himself, no more. If she understands it, it is already worthy of getting a positive grade. But it seems laziness takes a little time to make it. Although she believed that she was ready for it, as soon as the opportunity comes, it will definitely demonstrate itself. Soma believes in this whole heart. He apologized to Ain for making her wait long. But the girl said she didn't expect it at all. She just likes to watch their fights as interesting. Aina had no reason to invent. She was not just for the sake of the company. The catfish realized that Ain spent a lot of free time just staying with him. She had nothing against it. At this point, he was aware of a great idea. He realized that the time is the most valuable thing that a person has, and it is important to use it wisely. Maybe she should come up with a sign in case she is stolen? Aina did not understand what he meant. This situation is unlikely to happen in the near future. But Soma thought it was better to be prepared for the worst. Aina wondered if he would have saved her if she really disappeared. The guy without hesitation said it would definitely help her. She was confused and decided that he was just charming her. However, the catfish was upset. If she was really abducted, he would have done his best to save her. Aina apologized and turned away, and he calmly assured her that she was not guilty of anything. But the girl suddenly decided to finish the conversation and just left. Lena thought, what would her brother do if she was suddenly abducted? She believed that he would definitely come to the rescue and save her. This question seemed difficult for her. She couldn't understand why he did not answer anything. To be accurate, she trained hard to protect herself. Lena decided that if she wanted to be saved, she should stop the workout. Aina confessed that although it is almost not visible from the outside, she has not been going wrong lately. The conversation returned to the theme of the magicians again. Camilla suggested a little longer to discuss the issue. These words could be useful. It is important to just listen, and then the catfish will gradually begin to understand what to be human. The guy explained what 5 humanoid races were called this word: people, half-life, forest spirits, monsters, and vampires. They all belong to humanity. Camilla wondered in catfish whether he knew why they were called. The catfish honestly replied that he did not know. He first suggested that it was somehow related to their appearance. But then it is unclear why the dead souls do not fall into this group. She said that everything is very simple. It is determined by whether the people have their own state. Hearing this, the catfish instantly stopped why the souls were not taken into account here. They cannot create their own state. This also applies to ghosts, although it is still unknown whether they can be considered as a separate race. The catfish suggested that the situation with the gnomes was similar. Camilla said that with the gnomes, it was different. There are so few of them that even purebred are often not considered a separate race. The young man thought that it was for this reason that the teacher appeared here. But she did not understand anything from his words. Soma noticed that Camilla seems to be a thieves, and apparently true purebred. She confessed that she was surprised. She did not expect him to understand it all. The catfish believed that everyone could guess to just think. People do not even realize that they may be faced with some of the ancient missing race. In addition, Camilla hardly tells that the dwarves grow and grow up much slower than others. They were a little distracted from the conversation, so the girl decided to return to the main theme. She asked the catfish with the question, how does he think the word humanity comes from? He guessed that it was done specifically, and probably not without the participation of magicians. Indeed, it turned out that they officially introduced this concept, though. Even before the magicians appeared, there were often acute disputes and major conflicts between different races. It came to the fact that the races were on the verge of destruction of each other. It was at this time that the Hobbites almost disappeared from the face of the earth. That is why people decided to make magicians a common enemy of all humanity. Sounds strange, right? But even such an idea was unable to resolve any controversy. The catfish wondered what the benefit of this story. Camilla said that all this means only one thing. It will definitely leave this country and go far away. The guy could not understand the reason. She then explained that if there is a place in the world where you can learn magic, he will definitely go there. And such a place is always inhabited by real magicians. The catfish realized that she wanted to warn him could not be trusted by anyone. However, he understood that he was not growing up. He could not change anything. Aina was completely confused and did not know what to do. She felt a real failure. It seemed that she failed everyone around. The only thing left was to escape. Albert asked if she plans to become a princess, the ruler of the magicians again. Albert is one of the 4 most powerful magicians. He is also called God Commander and God of Death. They are considered gods because of their high position. Ain could not believe that one of them could need a failure and disappointment. Apparently, the old Ain would be happy and willingly agreed to it. However, she remembered her girlfriend. Albert was silently waiting for her to make her choice. He thought he had come when he was needed. But what does she think? The princess sincerely apologized. She did not want to offend anyone. It is simply unclear why someone is so worried about, in her opinion, a small little thing. The moment has come when you have to say your answer. Albert asked for what to wait. As a supreme magician, he solemnly announced that it was time to bring a plan to life. Others immediately understood. Now they have to start acting. However, unfortunately, everything was not as easy as they hoped. Now the plan should be implemented on the day when it was launched. Everyone who gathered here should understand. They are in no way guilty. This delay was also part of the plan. If Anna intervened, everything could be easy. However, hasty actions would only worsen the result. Albert promised to bring it in person. He trusts everything else. All this is done for the sake of the future king of magicians. Meanwhile, Anna sat without work and bored. Suddenly, she felt that someone was behind. He ordered to stay still. It was Ice. Aina was worried and suggested to stop. Such things are not to her liking. But Lena promised to come only tomorrow, right? Everything is true, but Lena wanted to make a surprise to her brother, so she appeared today. Although he is not at home yet, this is not a problem for her. Aina decided that this surprise was prepared for her, not for Catfish. She was genuinely surprised, but felt that this time the jokes went beyond. Lena wondered in surprise. Why did she think she was a joke? Is it strange if the sword is directed at the one you know well? Ayin is so vulnerable and defenseless. She could not understand what was discussed. Then Lena explained that if there was another person in her place, Ayin would no longer be alive. Here, you should always stay alert, especially in such a place. Ain couldn't believe her eyes. Did Lena really not intention to kill her? Lena, of course, sometimes feels superfluous when Aina chatted with her brother. But this is not enough to want someone to get rid of life. Aina asked. And now? What now? Lena said with a smile. But it was just a joke. Or to be honest, rather a warning. Ain is a magician that is in a place where it can be dangerous. It should always be careful. But neither she nor her brother thought about the possible threat. Soma can still cope with it, but Ain is unlikely. Lena has long wanted to talk to her about it. It is good that they are here too today. Aina asked not to scare her anymore. Lena is a girl, not simple, but if it were not for fear, her words would not have such influence. Aina realized that Lena was right. However, Lena still asked me to be careful, because if someone suddenly comes across her, but the girl did not have time to register how something invisible with incredible force pushed her to the side. Aina saw Albert. He said goodbye in a cold voice, and at that moment covered everyone with a wave of his strength. He treated Lena very roughly. She tried to explain that he did not accept everything. She did not want to offend Aini at all, so it was not necessary to save her. Albert explained that if he intervened earlier, the girl would only suffer even more. Even Albert himself would feel shame. But now it doesn't matter. All his good deeds should be attributed not so much to him as the order of the King of Magicians. The princess could not understand what was happening to him. Albert assured that you should not worry. This girl may still need them in the future, so he is not going to kill her. As promised, the King of Magicians waiting for the princess. She has to go with him. But Aina has already said her opinion. She will stay and will not go anywhere. Albert thought. It turns out that she doesn't matter what happens to Lena. The princess could not understand why he was going to such extremes. Then the guy was already preparing to tell her everything. The girl confidently said that her father would never forgive that. But Albert replied that in this situation, everything was happening by the decision of the King of Magicians. Aina did not accept these words and did not believe him. He sighed deeply, because there was no other way. He only had to act as he planned from the beginning, and forced her to carry out his plan. So it's time to go back. A little pleasant surprises are still remained, so the king will undoubtedly be glad. Meanwhile, Lena's mother learned what was happening. During the month, the girl missed one lesson weekly, but everyone else was sure to come. This did not cause any suspicion to moms. The teacher confessed that when Lena did not appear today, she did not pay attention to it, and did not tell anyone about her. Mom was surprised to ask if laziness would have to miss tomorrow classes. The teacher simply suggested what would happen. The woman realized everything. The teacher could tell nothing more, so she was sent from work. She repeated the order again, and then bowing, the teacher left the room silently. Mom wondered why women like this one at all. She just didn't want to do it on her own. In addition, this woman was better than others. Camilla thought that she had already taken this person once. It was not necessary to release her immediately. However, she has a reason now, and she decided to take this chance. It turned out that Lena was not over an hour. In fact, 2 have passed. No one knew for sure whether she was still in the estate or went somewhere. Then Camilla asked, Lena was at lunch in general? Lena really lunched with her mother, so there could be either escape or abduction. Camilla thought it was an escape. The woman asked why it happened. To this, Camilla replied, could anyone get here, and that no one could notice it? Even if someone came here, she would certainly notice it. Camilla wondered if someone had any ideas, but in response she was only asked, and what she thinks about it. Everything turns into a solid mess again. Camilla undertakes this situation. The girl's mother confessed that she would also like to help. Camilla has always solved her difficulties, and today there was no exception. When the girl left the office, she sighed lightly. She already imagined where she would start her searches, as she suddenly met Sam. Camilla first thought that he listened to their conversation, but the guy assured her that he had heard nothing. On the way, I heard people talking about the disappearance of Lena. He was confirmed that Lena really disappeared. He realized that Camilla had already talked about it with her mother. Camilla was glad that the guy knows everything, so it became easier. She decided to go in search of the girl, and the catfish, meanwhile, had to study on her own. He wondered if she guessed where it could be, but in fact, she has no ideas. She only knows what she wants to start with a dark forest or even further. The catfish decided to trust her. Camilla was a little alarmed. She hoped that the catfish would ask her to go with him. It seemed to her that he was hiding something. However, the catfish assured that he had nothing to hide. He promised not to monitor. But he does not watch her, just tells her the way. Camilla realized that her hurry even helps in this situation. But she thought, is she really moving in the right direction? The catfish confessed. He was not sure that Lena was really used. He also sincerely hopes that has not happened. He noticed a sign left while trying to abduct. This is not a label. Apparently, this Ina was in trouble. The same girl he met in the forest. She left a sign that only he can see, so the catfish simply follows this mark. Camilla asked why they gathered here. The guy explained that she was beneficial now, and advised her not to worry about it. It was because of this label that he learned about the abduction, and he became known about Lena quite by accident. When the catfish noticed that Ain was missing, he immediately returned to the estate. He was informed there that Lena had also disappeared. Camilla wondered why the catfish did not rush to look for them immediately. Seeing the distance between the labels, the catfish realized that the kidnappers used the magic of teleportation. He only knows the direction, but does not know where to look. Therefore, he prepares for the worst. These searches can be delayed for a few days. Teleporting is a complex magic. Even if you use a special artifact, this skill is only a truly powerful enemy. Camilla finally realized that he should now follow him. However, she was surprised, and the catfish wondered why it was so struck. She noticed that the guy was keeping too calm. He should not panic, but she thought that at least a little annoyance would appear on his face. Camilla dreamed of seeing more feelings in it, but it seems that it would not happen. There are no more marks here, so it's time to move forward. The catfish believes that the enemies have not yet attacked. Camilla warns that they move after the enemy, so it is better to keep silence. The guy agreed to the offer. He would like to find out how much time he stayed before their meeting with others. He was going to look at the surrounding area, which Camilla was easy to fit. Camilla realizes that he cannot help him. However, she really likes. They decided to first find the nearest village. It seemed to be a big problem for them. On the way, they were pointers. This place was more reminiscent of the village rather than the city. No one could predict. The catfish wondered what to do next. Local residents are sure to notice a stranger. But will they go to the conversation? Camilla quickly decided that there was no point in thinking for a long time, and offered to continue the way. The guy supported her without hesitation, and they moved on. However, everything went as much as planned. It turned out exactly as the catfish warned. He realized that he could not trust the teacher. An elderly woman came to him when he wanted to talk to someone. However, this meeting was something that worried him. The guy said he was here due to certain circumstances. He does not know the terrain, and now looks for food. He asked if there was any danger here. The woman immediately realized why other people avoid talking to him. Soma asked, interested, "Why so?" This is a little-known story. In that direction there is an altar that has not been used for hundreds of years. At one time the gods called here. The catfish realized that it was a dark god. It is because of this that everyone is trying to avoid this topic. People do not even imagine what can happen if you get there. Now the catfish finally understands the reason for this. Once upon a time, 100 years ago, a deity of chaos appeared in the world. It sought to erase all humanity from the face, but one day a brave hero appeared who was able to overcome this god. Wizards are people who pay tribute to this god. The catfish asked how much time it took to get to the altar. Grandma replied that it would take a day. She advised not to go there better, because even if there is no god, there is a full monster everywhere. The catfish said that it should still continue the path. He wondered if there was something important there. The woman replied that there was nothing interesting further. The catfish thanked her for an important hint. She replied that she didn't say anything special, but she was pleased to help. Then the guy added that if she had difficulty, he will gladly help her. The woman doubted a little, but still decided to share her story. She did not consider herself especially interesting, but very much wanted someone to listen to her. The guy gladly agreed to listen to her. This story tells of one senseless grandfather. It all started about a year ago. Then a little girl happened to them. Their settlement was small, so all the locals knew well. They immediately noticed that this girl is new here. They guessed that the girl escapes from some danger. It would probably be wiser to leave her, but the heart did not allow it. As a result, they decided to hide the baby. At first, they only planned to treat, give a little rest, and then say goodbye. Even after rest, her face remained pale. The old woman felt that it was not in the disease of the body, but in the wound on the soul. To drive this girl is the same as to condemn her to death. They could not do anything. They felt something wrong, but did not even dare to ask. The catfish had already begun to understand who was talking about. Suddenly, the girl smiled and reported that she had a friend. Since then, she has increasingly smiled. Although they did almost nothing for her, her happiness warmed their soul. They never had their children, but now treated her as if their granddaughter. Sometimes there was a confusion in her eyes. Sadness visited her not so often, although sometimes he still made himself known. But lately, she often laughed, heartily and sincerely. Soma asked in surprise, "Did she not laugh before?" The woman nodded and said, "Yes," laughed, but it was another laughter. Then it was not a sincere smile that comes from the heart. They realized that they could not change anything, but felt joy, because someone else had already saved it. They already suspected who she really was, but did not tell anyone about it. Even in such a distant village, rumors fly quickly. However, it did not matter because they decided to reveal the whole truth. The catfish did not quite understand what she wanted to say. "We told the man that everything is well with her. She never returned. The old woman thought it was probably because of her. Probably the girl just went home. She was a little sad that she didn't even say goodbye. In fact, they belonged to completely different worlds, and it was indisputable truth." The grandmother thanked the boy for listening to her and asked another request. She asked to tell the girl that they regret everything, but the catfish still refused. The woman perceived it calmly because she understood that such an answer could be predicted. She was aware that she asked for herself, but the guy promised that he would definitely return Ain. Then she will tell her everything. He believes that they still have to talk, and I am sure that Ain thinks. The catfish decided for himself. He would definitely take it with him. At this time, Ain was overwhelmed and realized that she was in a very strange and unfamiliar place. It was a real prison, but not like others. It felt something strange and unnatural. Lena, who has already come to her senses, was the first to say, "Good morning." It was not the best moment for celebrations. The most important thing is that with Lena, all is well. She only slightly shrugged. If it can be called good, then so be it. She did not understand why they were closed. Maybe Aina knows something? The princess remembered the words of Albert. So decided the king of demon. She was trying to assure herself that it was not true. But if it is true, maybe Albert acts at his own discretion. Or is it really an order from her father, but someone distorted him? Lena noted that her friend fell silent and thought. Aina decided to just tell everything she knew. Lena was confused. Is Aina really a daughter of the king demon? It explained a lot. But why did Ain find herself in a cage? And why was Lena there with her? Ain could not understand anything, too. She did not know if they were going to sacrifice it or just took with them as a slave. Suddenly, a person who listened to their conversation came out of the shadow and unexpectedly suggested help. Albert finally dared to tell why they were closed, although everyone was so clear what was the matter. Both were prepared for sacrifice. Ain couldn't believe it. Her dad would never let it. Albert only sighed, sadly thinking that she did not take everything. The princess was convinced that the truth lies on the surface. However, Albert just smiled and said that to call it a scum, the real king of the demons, was full of nonsense. They never accepted him for their own. For them, there was only one real demon worthy to wear the crown of the king. Even among the highest are those who blindly believe in a self-esteem. However, when the real Lord returns, everyone will see how much they were mistaken. How many times you need to say, the title can only have one demon? But this demon died for a long time. Ayn did not understand how they were going to bring him back to life. Albert calmly said that everything was going according to plan. They are just doing. The ritual is ready, and the return is approaching. Aina barely restrained her shock. The dead comes to life. In theory, it is possible. But in fact, there is almost no chance. She understood that it would have to sacrifice something. However, these victims should be special. In their hands, they hold two talented children. They do not intend to stop. By using these victims, they will create a new Lord Demon. The self-esteem, along with his followers, will be thrown into hell. An hour of revenge came. Instead of silence, blood and uprising, because that is how they will pay for those who called them monsters and rejected their lives in this world. Aina boiled from anger inside. How could he afford it? The princess clenched her teeth firmly. She realized everything. Albert praised her for wisdom. They realized that they would not be able to avoid revenge, but would become the first spark from which everything would begin. Lena silently pulled the weapon. She did not pay attention to rituals or kings. She was indifferent. In fact, Lena didn't have to be here. And yet she rushed to the attack. Her blow was doomed to failure. Did Lena really believe that Albert could catch up? He is one of the most powerful generals, and appeared here for some purpose. Her decision could be a deadly danger. However, one victim will be enough to work. Ain could no longer stay away, so she boldly entered the battle. Albert could not believe his eyes. Did the princess use magic again? How is it possible? He himself put a seal on her, but she accidentally broke her. Now, before his death, he will at least tell her the whole truth. Through his seal, she could not have spent it all, but no demon even noticed it. Ain never realized why it was all needed. Albert only smiled gently and replied that she wanted to see it gradually faded in despair. Even then, he chose it for sacrifice, but did not predict that the consequences would be so strong. When she escaped, it brought him a lot of trouble. In the end, everything happens in the same way as it was conceived. He is grateful to her for it. The princess burned from anger. In her heart, a real hatred of Alberta. It is not frightened by her magic, but she is too noisy. It's time to relax a little. He never admired the beetles, but he would probably be more fun with the princess. He expected she would start crying and asking for mercy. However, instead of tears, he saw in it true power. In these 2 years, it has changed a lot, and now it has become even more interesting to watch her. Aina clenched her teeth, trying to withstand unbearable pain. More recently, Albert considered her a helpless princess in a cage, and now he will have to review his opinion. Does she understand how senseless and even funny looks this endless path to the same finals? It looked like an animal locked in a cage that it will just be superfluous. This is not only considered Albert. Her escape changed nothing. She still does not understand what she is talking about, but Albert is going to explain everything. Now we will see if it can strain brains. Who, in her opinion, gave him the place of her hiding place? This is important. She was betrayed. Albert knows who did it, but will not tell her. Let him get in the unknown. It still holds, but is unlikely to last a long time. It is a pity that she should not be reached for the ceremony, but still need to be left alive. Albert thought, if she was so hard, why she just won't ask for a mercy? If she seemed, he would cure her wounds. She would still die, but at least without suffering. The princess was silent and did not even try to ask for mercy. She seemed to believe that someone would come to her help. However, she understood perfectly. Miracles do not happen just like that. Aina nodded. She didn't even dream of such a miracle in her life. Albert decided that if he does not give happiness, he will at least make her scream from despair. Let him last comfort him with his pity cry. But at this point, another person appears nearby, to whom these bullying is already bored. He says, if you want to hear the cries, then yell yourself. The catfish became the spark of hope that scattered the darkness and gave everyone faith in the best. He apologized and explained that at first he helped laziness, because she felt much worse. Although I was late, but still made the promise, I came to save Ain. Before leaving, he suggested helping her to heal. He wondered if she could use magic for treatment on her own. The princess said she could not. The situation is such that there is no other way out. Aina requests that he advises not to worry about her, but instead, help laziness. The catfish does not fully understand what it is talking about. It should remain stationary because any of its movement can make him mistaken. The catfish explained that he used the sword technique of goodwill. This technique treats others, taking away the vital energy of its ruler. Using it twice in a row is extremely difficult. All this is small little things. He only asked to let you know if something went wrong. In general, the body should now be fine. The girl could not believe her eyes. All wounds and scratches on her body disappeared. She realized everything went successful. She was angry because she asked to cure Lena, not herself. Her wound was very serious, but the catfish reminded her that he had already helped laziness. Then Aina finally calmed down, but the catfish still hesitated. She asked him why. He promised to help her, but could not come on time. So he sincerely apologized for not coping and letting it down. The princess did not consider it a real problem. In her opinion, if Lena is in danger, first of all, you need to take care of her salvation. And the catfish already saved it. This is enough. She suggested getting here immediately because she did not want to stay. The catfish agreed with her, but explained that it is impossible to do it now. He prepared for the worst. Albert has long been tired of such people, but the opinion of others did not bother him at all. And he will not allow anyone to take girls, because they are the victims needed to return to the life of Lord Demons. Ain was shocked. There was no scratch on Alberta. The catfish was certain that he hit the target. But Albert explained that he had enough time to be cured. After all, these victims are especially valuable to their master. The catfish finally understood everything. All the actions of Albert showed that nothing will come out of him. If Albert remained on the floor, the catfish would even feel a pity. When Albert heard about a mercy, he laughed loudly. He advised this poor creature not to bend the stick. That is why he does not love children too much. They behave too boldly and do not understand their boundaries. Does the catfish be aware of what got involved? It may not matter to him. In any case, he will be death. Albert could not believe his eyes. The spell did not work, even though the catfish was right in front of him. How can it be that one of the most accurate is so easy to destroy? The catfish mentioned the words of Albert. Know your place. But the fact is that the catfish knows perfectly where its place. Perhaps this Albert misunderstood the situation. After all, he does not even see the true difference between them. Albert may be able to help him feel it. But now it doesn't matter, as Soma emphasized. The guy called him a scum. He barely had time to dodge the spell, and already thinks he is a hero. But in fact, Albert began to get too admired. The catfish stood ready, preparing for a decisive battle. Camilla has been going around for a long time, but she never saw a single person. She began to think, what if everyone else was killed? Those she noticed looked suspicious. They conceived something. Now they will not be a threat to anyone. But where to move on? Apparently you should visit another place. Someone crawled to her behind, trying to attack. But she just smiled and called him a fool. With such intentions to kill, he will never be harmful. She easily overcome him in a moment. In response, he cursed the Princess of Black Steel. Camilla realized that everything came to the end. Her attempt to distract the enemy did not help, and now everything has become useless. There is another free place. Runks may be able to help. Meanwhile, there was a tense battle between Albert and the cattle. Albert can't believe his eyes. This guy creates such miracles of magic. Does he also have special abilities? How can a child have such force? Somi's abilities impressed so much that it was hard to believe in their reality. The catfish believed that if you do evil, then you will get the same dark. But he was not a villain. The catfish decided to give Albert another opportunity to change and repent. However, Albert will die without feeling pity, but he still decided to punish for brazen words. As one of the 4 generals of the King of Demons, the Lord of Death, he sought to force the boy to die in torment and despair. Camilla has noticed that a very strong aura comes from the catfish. She immediately recognized the dangerous energy she had already felt 10 years ago. Again, these are the same demons that kidnap human bodies. Everything happens as before. They need to be stopped. She finally got to the place where the battle took place. Now the battle has reached the fiercest point. The catfish remained calm, even when he had to fight the demon. It seemed that everything happened in a dream, so everything was unrealistic. Albert was convinced of his victory. It is strange to him as the catfish is still holding on. He was certain the catfish was simply obliged to bring to the life of his master. The next time he will not miss. The guy will just burn to the ashes. The catfish adhered to his word. He directly called Albert only an empty chat. The rival annoyed so much that there was no strength. The catfish decided, enough time to show what he is capable of. Albert shouted that the boy would not be able to win and advised him to give up. But the catfish replied that his goal had no value. He said Albert's life is empty and meaningless. Albert could no longer restrain himself. He gathered all his strength and struck the cathedral of the most powerful blow. The guy stood motionless, confident, and completely ready to meet. The catfish suddenly waved with his weapon, and Albert was surprised to realize that the guy had really inflicted his wounds. He repeatedly insisted that it was simply unrealistic. He could not take himself. The catfish again stressed that Albert was too weak. The guy asked if he would regret now that he decided to attack. There is no point in running away. Now you just have to apologize, or to decide on suicide. Albert asked the catfish not to laugh at him, but the catfish was serious. Did he have a crumb of conscience? Honestly, even killing it is somehow sorry. The catfish, and so there are enough worries and difficulties. Albert thought that the young man did his service. If so, he will have to regret it. Camilla tried to stop him. Albert wanted to pick up the girl, but when he had already struck, the catfish was motionlessly noticed that he was moving too slowly. Albert could not understand how another noticed it. This is possible only through dark arts. Soma did not object to being considered a demon, even vice versa. He liked it. The patience of the guy was over. The opportunity was, but time has passed. It's time. Albert should say goodbye to his unhappy life. The catfish finally decided everything and put a point in this case. There will be nothing left of him. If he regrets about his recklessness, then accept in another world. And the catfish even could forgive him. Camilla came to a place to make sure everything is fine. However, everything was behind, and, as she expected, the guy managed himself. The catfish said it was only a small business for him. Camilla looked at him with surprise and asked if he knew that Albert was one of the lords. The guy said, "If he is so weak, what is the difference? Who was before?" Ina agreed with him. Camilla once witnessed the victory over the King of Demons, but now everything happened in a completely different way. After all, the catfish is not distinguished by some special talent. Although not all so bad, she has a small and special abilities. But the decision where to go on, she makes only she herself. If she met the catfish a little earlier, her life might have happened completely differently. But now it doesn't matter. The most important thing is that the guy solved all the problems, and she sincerely recognizes it. Now he trusts her everything else. The catfish, completely exhausted, falls on the ground. What happens next, no one knows. If the demons capture it, war can begin. We may have to act first. Everyone who tried to bring the demons to the King of the Demons turned into a demon. True demons are those to whom people believe and they bow to. They are the true enemies of humanity who want to destroy our world. It doesn't matter if he was alive or died. If he is still alive, this is a great trouble. Demons have been hidden everywhere, and as soon as they start acting, darkness will fall into the world. If the demons have already woke up, Camilla may not survive. She does not care that others will tell her. It has always been, and probably so it should remain. She thought, how would Camilla in her place do? She destroyed everything, and the catfish corrected everything. This is the real self-irony. The woman squeezed the sheet firmly in her hand, and then without any regret set fire to it. She protected him from everything that could harm. But he grew up, and now it's time to go on a journey. She will be near, though from afar, watching he blossoms and finds himself. Soma says it's time to go on the road. Dana, before going, wants to make sure he really got better. The guy rested well and said goodbye to the mentor. Lena will soon wake up. Aina does not want him to go because he worries for him. To change the topic, she remembers Lena, and the catfish assures her that everything is well with the girl. He had high hopes for it, although everything is different now. Meanwhile, Lena watched them unnoticed, hiding behind a tree. The guy reassured Ain, saying that you should not worry about Lena. In fact, he was more concerned about what Ain would say. The girl apologized to him. This year, that they were familiar, she could not open completely. But she promised that she would change in the future. What if the catfish did not have time to help her? He is very worried, and wants Ain to understand how risky it was. In response, Ain says he understands everything well, but he should know something else. He didn't even ask where she was. She believes that if the catfish learned the truth, then it would probably stop talking to it. The catfish apologized that he knew about her so little. But I understood. They need to talk. So he carefully asked where she lived all this time. Aina said that staying in her home was too dangerous, so she went on a journey a year ago. On the way, she came across the village, and in order to get further, she had to go through it. She did not want to bother others, so she patiently waited for the night. The fatigue took her own, and she decided to rest a little. The old couple saw her and invited her to spend the night. In the morning, she tried to go unnoticed, leaving only a note, but the owners called it and said that they would always be glad to see her again. From these words, she barely restrained tears. So what did he really go on the road? The wound happened recently. The catfish says, it is still pain, but it is capable of traveling. He believes that he will return to him later. He made sure that everything was fine. It was time to go. Before going, he asked Ain what she thinks. She travels alone, as well as he. But it happened that their paths crossed, and now they are stepping together in one direction. Is it just an accident? Apparently not. Rather, that fate told them to meet. She only looks in surprise without realizing what he means. The catfish says frankly, he would like to travel together. He asks whether she is not against such an idea, because in his opinion, the two is always easier and more interesting than when you travel yourself. Aina realized that he was really right, but if she goes with him, he will only become a burden. Through it, he will have trouble. So the catfish made the decision. They will go together. He wishes that, and she will never be a burden for him. He will not leave her and always be in defense, whatever happens. God is there in heaven and the world means nothing to him, said the catfish. Aina could not understand what he meant. He said he just reflected aloud and looking forward to an interesting journey. The girl offered Siley a drink, but he politely refused, explaining that she had a lot of work. The fire rapidly seized the whole village with a young man who stood in the middle of him. He did not want it. I just wanted to study them a little. That's all. His revenge eventually came true. The person in the cloak has overcome a little. Yet, it's a small thing. First, you need to focus on the most important. He thanked the boy for his support. He said he did not know when he goes on, but he would pray to his God that he gives him the strength when his time comes. Ain is very tired. The catfish felt something wrong when he looked at this pass. His sixth sense suggested, something is wrong here. Lena decided to trust him and go together. Aina reminded with an annoying tone once again. They have no time to bypass this place. The catfish heard something similar earlier, but did not agree. Lena stood on his side, and Ain ordered them to be quiet. She also warned that if they did not reach the next territory today, there will be a disaster. So she said. But the catfish noticed that this trail looked suspicious. Aina thought that that is why everything was quiet, and now everything could change. The guy only replied that only those who have a weak character hold this opinion. Aina asked Lena whether they did the right thing without telling him about it. After all, a new month was to begin. The sister thought it was too early to talk about it. If necessary, then they will tell. Lena approached the catfish, and he looked at her with suspicion. He seems to think that Aina was missing when Alone falls asleep? Lena immediately denied. She never said it. The catfish asked, "You don't miss? Even a little?" Aina replied uncertainly that, no, she did not miss. It seemed strange to him that she suddenly fell silent. But Lena said she was just a little confused in words. And again they walked the road, arguing with each other. Kingdom of Radial, Barren Avonland, the city of Easter. It is the northernmost corner bordering Numa, a famous wasteland where no one dares to walk because there are only terrifying monsters. In the department of the Guild of Adventures, an unusual atmosphere prevailed this day. Doris Genzel, who worked here, noticed that today somehow especially joyful and fun. Sheila paid attention to it. She said she was just thinking aloud. Although it is filled with life, sometimes it remembers things that have long lost their meaning. Of course, she would also like to relax with everyone, sit at a table with food and drinks. However, it does not allow itself to relax, especially when she is at work. Sheila decided not to pay attention to it. He could not ignore, because the contract was clearly stated. She also remembered how she got a short straw. The girl could not understand how something could be loved at all if she was so far from all over the world, in this lonely death. To watch guys do their business is not as bad as it seems. Perhaps that is how she will live her life until old age. Doris asked not to pay attention to it. At first, she was very happy when she was here. and later realized that everything was not as great as it seemed. Guests arrived at the guild office. Everyone froze in place when they saw a huge monster. The girls did not get lost and immediately grabbed the weapons. The man who came with the monster understood that the first impression matters. Therefore, he wanted everyone to remember this meeting forever. His comrades understood. The enemy is much stronger than they expected. The aggressive boar scared both Sheila and Doris, so they were lost. Lena realized that this time she would not be able to circle her brother around her finger. Here you can really be surprised. Aina was certain. It was not at all surprised, and he confirmed it. People in the guild were looking at children in surprise without understanding who they were and what was happening. The guy apologized for the inconvenience and said he had a question that he would like to ask. Can he enroll to become an adventure seeker? Silence prevailed in response. The catfish hoped that his striking appearance would cause more admiration. But something clearly went wrong. His meeting was not as warm as he expected. Sheila realized that everything went from the very beginning. Now she could no longer just refuse him. The Torah only sighed, because when someone acts so skillfully, it will not be able to catch up. She met them in the guild branch. Her name is Genzel, and she works here in this branch. Doris thought there was a moment to act. She thanked her sincere reception and said that field workers were always ready to help. She asked to communicate without formalities. Something happened, and now she was here. Either it becomes the face of the guild, or there will be nothing. In any case, they were appointed only today. Aina noted that the girl is very confident for the newcomer. Doris smiled at this and said that self-confident adventure seekers did not survive for a long time, and then immediately laughed, assuring that it was only a joke. It is difficult to imagine that she can feel so calmly. It seems that she is completely relaxed. Doris suggested not to spend time and immediately go to the main one. Because this question concerns registration, isn't it? There are 3 of them, yet children, but already so mature. They seem older than many adults that I knew. Among them, the guy stands out the most. He is a real leader. If simply, who has a resourceful mind, he grows faster than others. And these guys were able to defeat the angry boar that only experienced warriors would cope with. That is why Doris must make sure that they really deserve to be called adventurers. It looked like they were looking for adventures and seeking to make a little money to have something to pay for a journey. This reason is quite common. The catfish also tried to sell parts of the monster, but no one wanted to buy them. She explained that you would not do anything. Even if the shops take the product, it's still to sell it anyway. The catfish thought. It seemed as if they were simply not trusted. Doris nodded and said it was really so. It turns out that if the guilds need something, they care about it. Lena immediately realized, if they send the materials to someone who does not like them, the guild simply will not take them. The girl said the guild was created for adventure seekers. This is a dangerous job, and no one wants unnecessary hassle here. Such are the strict rules of this life. That is why Doris should check them on their own. She suggested that the catfish try to take the test. In response, the guy said it would be better if they did it together. Doris explained, if someone does not handle, a failure for everyone. If someone refuses, they refuse altogether. Everything is simple and clear, right? This is a great responsibility. Aina saw that despite all the seriousness, he remained surprisingly calm. Lena also has no doubt. He will be able to cope. Doris asked to be careful and listen well, because he should compete with her, and by the results of this fight will determine his level. The guy immediately understood. It will be a training match. However, the result was not so important to her. Lena wondered if she would deny Doris. Lena wanted to fight him, and it surprised Doris. She did not expect Lena to offer herself as an examiner. His rival, a girl with katana alert. The exam began in the guild. The catfish came to the fore and rushed. Lena confidently repelled the blow, as I predicted. The cloak was slightly shaking her movements, but it was for this purpose that he was conceived. She took the next step and went on the attack. The catfish stood firmly, not inferior to the step. Lena realized. Sheila is much stronger than her. The world around seemed huge. Ain did not have time to see anything at all. The princess wondered how Sheila was moving so quickly in her cloak. The boy's boyfriend had more than Doris hoped. However, Sheila is not easy. Apparently this is really katana. He first sees her uses it, but it is clear that it is her main weapon. But why did she suddenly show her hands if she hid them so much time? She could still keep it secret. Maybe something or someone made her do it? Or she really wanted it. How many more will the fight continue? Lena thought she would have to finish him. But Doris explained. The exam stops when the participants reach their limit. Lena thought that the catfish had already understood everything and now fighting with content. But why is Sheila fighting? Doris cannot say herself. Maybe she should just ask about it. She is convinced that something has attracted the attention of Sheila. And this is not surprising because her rival was catfish. But Aini is much more interesting to watch her girlfriend think than their battle. Doris was already tired and felt pain after the battle. She realized, it is time to put a point. The next attack should be crucial. Both rivals gathered with their forces, preparing to strike a decisive blow. Doris stopped them and said that it is enough. It is not necessary to go further. She announced that the exam was completed. If someone wants to continue, let it, but otherwise. She has already seen everything she needed. It makes no sense to move on. Doris wanted to report the result now, but still suggested that he first return to the office. And it is clear that they all successfully coped with the test. From now on, these three can call themselves adventurers. However, today they cannot formally confirm it. The catfish was a little confused, because although he heard about guild cards, he knew not everyone can give them. The staff of this branch had no such authority. It turns out that now they seem to be adventurers, but not yet real. She agreed to help as a mediator, but they would have to contact another branch to design the cards. Aina asked what to do if someone came to the branch without any documents. Doris explained that in cities, this would not be a big problem. But if you go on, you will have to improvise and play your role as if the actor is on stage. Lena noticed that taking a test in each department is not easy. She didn't know how to be on. The catfish honestly confessed that he had no answer. So he decided to ask where you could get the card fastest. She recommended Lamberg. They will help to decorate everything. If you go by train, the road will last a week. A week is a considerable time, but the trip is still worth it, even if without a card. The ruler lives there. Namely, the city is considered the richest throughout the region. It is here that all goods and news gather. To visit this city is a wise decision. Doris asked why they were traveling. Everything determines their purpose. The catfish explained that he was traveling to better master magic. She was surprised. Is he a magician? After all, it looks rather than a sword. The catfish just smiled and replied that both so and no. He had no magical abilities. She could not understand why they were at all this journey. And for him, everything was clear. He wanted to learn how to own magic. I couldn't understand why the girls were so surprised. In a world where it all depends on abilities, such stubbornness can rarely be found. But Sheila is a completely different story. Doris wondered if everything was fine. In response, she heard that yes, and that she trusts them. Sheila Liongard is an Elfian who was asked. Behind Lamberg are ancient ruins, and she asks her to spend it there. One of the adventurers did not believe it. He decided that all these stories were only fictions, and the ruins are in fact ordinary old stones. 3 more are approached. One of the figures in the dark cloak is soothing. Everything is under control. However, there are difficulties with the last point. If you trust the records, it would not be possible for a simple person. It is necessary to make sure, because yet no one was at risk of going there. The moment has come decisively. If something goes wrong, we will change our plan. He realized that he did not spare them, because he heard an excerpt of the conversation. He wanted everything that happened to be in memory as an important event. It's a good idea. He asks for this adventurer to tell everyone about everything that happened here without hiding any detail, both about him and the dragon. Doris handed over shelter. The guy was certain that she could trust him. But isn't it too bold? Dana still agreed. Trusting a stranger is always a risk, but Sheila asked herself. If they are deceived, then she simply has not yet learned to distinguish sincere people from deceiver. He rode with the boys on a trip. Soma mentioned how Sheila told that in order to get into that place, you need to own magic. She learned about it from a strange man in a black hoodie, whom she met at Lamberg's tavern. He said that the real strength of the demon is dormant somewhere in the depths. He talked about the old ruins nearby, but he was afraid to go there. Therefore, he shared this news with travelers who seemed bold and ready to explore these places. The catfish realized. Sheila agreed to pay, giving some of what she would find. He seemed very suspicious. The girl was well aware of it, but as soon as she crossed the threshold, immediately felt someone's presence. The smell caught an invisible source of irritation. Her feelings were suggested. She is unlikely to handle it. Lena finally realized why she went with these people. However, she thought that it would be better to look for brave satellites in the capital itself. The catfish replied that it was true. but there would be rumors to be a moment all over the city. And after all, what is the difference? Everything looks suspicious. If it is a trap, we will just break. The boys finally got to the right place. Ayn was amazed. As such a huge place may remain unknown, because it is quite near the city. Then Shayla explained to her that there was a hidden barrier here. No magic will help to find this place if you do not know about its existence. As soon as they got to Lamberg, they immediately went here. Ayn was a little worried because they did not have time to prepare properly. The catfish reassured her. They say, now they just look around and collect information. Sometimes information is even more important than preparation. They went on. They almost immediately trapped. The path to the exit was closed. The catfish guessed that spikes could be inside, but in fact everything was simple. Sheila also expected something bad, so, making sure she was safe, exhausted. Ayn was amazed at how indifferent these people respond to everything that is happening. She wondered. Not they would not be aware of such bizarre creatures, but it is not difficult for them. Sheila and Catfish quickly coped with opponents. The catfish was lost for a moment, but the situation was solved without problems. Aina thinks that 3 monsters appeared because of her way. She could not even imagine that the 2 could win the ghost. The boys were surprised why her reaction was so unexpected. Ghosts are a creature without a body that cannot be overcome by conventional methods. This requires magic. Shayla thought that perhaps the reason in their special class. Lena denied that although it has a unique class, the ghost cannot even scratch. And the catfish does not have any class at all. Sheila was very surprised because she did not even suspect it. Lena was also amazed because she did not understand why he did not tell her. The catfish explained that it does not consider itself special and has no class. He said he did not have any skills, and even more so special. Sheila was amazed. She couldn't believe that someone could so skillfully own a sword without even having any special skills. She thought in surprise that all this seems pointless. The man was enveloped in front of her. The catfish noticed that she hesitated and asked if everything was fine. The girl assured that everything was well with her, and they continued their way. The boys slowly passed one by one all the halls of the ancient ruins. Finally, they got to where they went. It seems that we have reached the last room of these ruins. It's like an altar. But it is interesting. What is hiding behind him? Suddenly a black dragon emerged before Lena. She could not understand why a whole cult was created around him. The catfish touched the altar and felt a slight disappointment. Ayn angrily asked why he moved forward himself without warning it, and if there were trouble? But the guy just smiled and said that, as usual, he would handle everything himself. The inside was empty. Lena wondered in Sheila what they had to find here. Shayla replied that it was somehow related to the source of demonic force. The catfish guessed that he could fulfill her desire. Sheila thought and remembered that she only told her plans. It immediately seemed suspicious. The catfish agreed with her. The situation really looked strange, but there was nothing unexpected. The girl asked that she did not know more details. The catfish assured her that this was not a problem. In such a place, it was really easy to believe that the source was creating the conditions for using magic. Sooner or later, they would still learn. But it seems that there is nothing special here. Soma noticed that Ayn was doing something. Although the altar was empty, it still felt something mysterious. Aina opened the lid and suddenly bounced from surprise. The catfish reassured it, saying that this item was specifically created to be opened. Inside, he found a parchment with the text written on it. It seems like it was an ancient sacred letter. Lena has never encountered this before. Aina said it was a very ancient inscription, but in fact it did not seem so old at all. Sheila was silent without finding words. Lena thought that few people can read the same now. At this point, the catfish remembered that it was here that the source of demonic force. Lena couldn't believe her eyes. Did he really read the inscription? This was confirmed by what Sheila told her. However, the idea of a secret hiding did not give a rest. If it existed, then perhaps the artifact had already taken away. Sheila did not seem. She believed that if nothing was here, something would definitely be near. It seems that traps were placed here, but why could she not pass them on their own? These traps may have appeared here recently. In addition, ancient glyphs remind him of the letters from the alphabet of his native world. The catfish realized that it was time to go back. One of the men in black was watching them. He saw their hidden potential, but decided not to interfere. Let the events develop by themselves, so it will be better for Lord and for their ideals. The catfish asked what holiday was arranged here. He was explained, celebrate a successful expedition. The treasure managed to get so much that it would be long enough, even though there was no main find. The girls tasted milk, and the catfish just drank water. Together, they rejoiced in their success. The guy was not sure they were lucky. Shayla said that if you look at this by achieving the goal, it is a failure, and if you have been lucky as adventurers, who could imagine that they will be lucky to face the treasury on the way back? Now they have so much money that will last long. They got a lot more from the monster than they hoped. Even if you spend everything very economically, it will be enough for a whole year. An unfamiliar man approached the boys. He asked them to listen to him. He asked not to worry and turned to Sheila, saying that she had to recognize him. The catfish wondered if they were really familiar. Sheila confirmed. It was he who once shared with her the story of the ruins. The man thanked her for believing in him. They summed up, but there was no trace on their faces. It was visible that they hoped for something better. Sheila said that all the treasures were already found, but they did not find the most important artifact. The man was upset and suggested that he may have been lost forever. He proposed to share information about other ancient ruins as compensation. There may be another source of force that awaits the one who finds it. The catfish noted that the building really looks unusual. Aina hesitated whether it was safe here. Sheila said that everything would be fine, or at least she hopes for it. Ain cannot understand why this tower is called treasure storage, especially now when it is almost falling apart. It is covered by fear that even the floor under the feet can disappear at any moment. Sheila was convinced that everything would look wrong inside. The catfish agreed with her, and both had to hope for the best. The boys went inside the dark tower. In the dark, everyone was moving disorderly. There was no light, and nothing happened. The catfish mentioned that light should glow somewhere. However, Aina decided not to wait. She created a glow with her magic, and it became clear around. She decided that the catfish noticed something, but in fact he simply envied that she was so simple. And she also wanted to be useful, but she could not. The catfish reminded that the floor is strong enough to withstand everything, but Aini cannot be used attacking magic. She remembered it well. Sheila rushed into battle when another group of skeletons appeared. Lena still decided to help, though she thought it was not necessary. Sheila thanked her for it. The catfish realized that it was already on the 4th floor. The skeletons happened to him more and more. There was clearly something important ahead. He asked if everyone had already prepared. Aina was surprised, because it was already too late to ask such a question. Soma just wanted to make sure everything was fine. He thought she would worry more, but the girl was already used to everything. In addition, the catfish is nearby, so she was not afraid. Lena realized that she was safe with him. Aina asked not to exaggerate, but was a little confused. In these words, there was a part of the truth. The catfish realized that having such responsibility on their shoulders is not easy. He was prepared for that. Here is the long-awaited top of the tower. As expected, a black dragon was already waiting for them. Aina wondered if there was nothing left. The catfish replied that everything was clearly visible, except for this monster. Shayla warned, if the dragon suddenly attacks here, they will get into great danger. And then a huge skeleton emerges. The catfish only sighed and said it was a common trap. And Sheila smiled and joked that the line between genius and stupidity was very thin. Aina asked to stop, but the catfish could not understand why she was so worried. The size of the enemy struck it to the depths of the soul. At the time, others seemed to worry at all. They behave quietly. But when you think, it's just a giant. She'll cut him with one powerful blow, but the skeleton immediately recovered. No matter how much we attack, it will not solve anything. It is necessary to strike faster than it has time to recover. But it seems impossible. Aina dared to apply her magic against him. The catfish noticed that the enemy almost did not move and constantly used the same blows. But the guy quickly guessed what he conceived a skeleton. He was trying to destroy the tower. He knows how to win it and understands that it is not time for it. The catfish easily used his usual technique, cutting the enemy, and then suggested that they quickly pick up what they came here. The woman learned about 7 people who saw the dragon on her own eyes, as well as the events that happened in the kingdom of Veritas. She hoped that she just seemed to her. And the king, meanwhile, hesitated, not knowing whether to open his thoughts. The servant wondered if something happened to the lord. Klaus only reassured him, they say, nothing special. The usual working situation. For 3 years he found himself in a hopelessness. He was constantly hinted at something suspicious, but he perceived it as a common joke. But that is why you cannot relax and lose care. It would be good if it was really just an exaggeration. The king decided that today is enough. The catfish came across a device that looked accurate as the one he saw in ancient ruins earlier. Don't they look for it? Here is a hidden force associated with a demonic crown. There is nothing special. No one has an idea what it is. The only way out is to contact the guild and find more information. The person in the cloak learned that the artifact was taken away. This means that the plan has been put into practice. They really proved their skills, so it is time to move to the next stage. The goal became even clearer. The moment has come decisively. It is for the sake of his lord. It is for the sake of their beliefs. The boys showed the artifact to other adventure seekers. They immediately realized that something was really important before them. The catfish remained calm. It was not a surprise for him. Lena heard that near the ruins had recently devastated the village. However, this news concerned other places, not those she needed to find. All her questioning never brought any answers. Therefore, they should find the person who is well versed in this. The man who did the hard work felt that he was actually waiting here. Ain could not understand how he found himself here. The catfish said Lena had warned him, even if she did not understand everything. Ain guessed. He was in the tent. Lena and Sheila confessed that they were not very careful, but Aina tried to show that not one. However, he remained in his opinion. The catfish realized that this man came, as before, to tell him something important. In fact, the stranger confirmed it. So, he decided to tell how to use this subject properly. That's what they lacked. Aini thought this stranger was even too good. In response, the man just smiled and said that over the years, people have become wiser. He asked if everyone was ready to listen. In response, everyone nodded and agreed. The sphere does not really matter by itself. Its true value is that it is the key. That is what it is needed. Soma thought, I wonder what this key suits. Apparently the answer is not so complicated. Even despite the ruins, it was already a trace. The stranger appreciated their agility and decided to join them, although he was not sure whether they would really find what they were looking for. After saying these words, he disappeared from view. Although they have a clear goal, Ain pointed out that the catfish behaved impressively. Lena understood. His piece has a very right basis. When he was asked what happened, the girl only said that everything was fine. She just thought he was silent. Aina noted that the catfish has become much more silent lately. In fact, he was simply immersed in his own thoughts. They are already accustomed to traveling in ruins. It has become a common matter for them. At first Ain was very worried, but over time her mood changed, and she felt a real relief. Lena noted that during this period they had already survived a lot. For Shayla, it was the first similar experience. But these ruins are really different from everyone she saw before. They look completely different. How did this place remain unknown to everyone, even despite the barrier? Shayla said that only the one who knows about this place can get here. Lenny got a little nod on her own. She would not have dared to come here. This place is well hidden, and so it should remain. Outwardly, this building seems small, but you should never trust the first impression. These are ancient ruins, and inside everything may not be the way from the outside. You just need to enter inside. If you only observe the side, nothing will change. The Somi felt strange, though she couldn't explain it. The alarm seemed to be in the air, and it was alert immediately. But even more frightened, there was no monster anywhere. When he said it aloud, others finally paid attention. Lena asked if everything was fine. Sheila answered honestly, not at all. Usually such ruins are always found monsters. Aina decided that she needed to be even more careful. The catfish agreed with this, though it seemed that it had already become a common thing. She was surprised by her unexpected peace. It may have been the case that it was often near the catfish. For catfish, it was something incomprehensible, especially when he noticed that her cheeks suddenly became blush. Lena also felt confident. When the catfish praised her, she smiled with joy. Ain is no longer so cheerful, silently followed everyone. Others said that caution is always correct. Sheila had already anticipated that it would happen. Suddenly, the catfish stopped, as if noticing something important. Others immediately realized that he had alarmed something, but it was difficult to explain my feelings. Even by the end, he did not understand what was happening to me. Lena assured that she would follow him wherever he did. Aina did not quite understand what was going on, and still decided to follow. Sheila trusts him. The catfish takes the guidance and orders everyone to keep alert. They met a girl who suddenly appeared on their way. No one could understand why she was here and what she was looking for. Maybe she is looking for something too? But the catfish immediately understood. This is not quite something. Ain also first decided that it was a person, but both were suspected. Something is wrong here. She had a human likeness, but her wings straightened behind her back. It was definitely not Harpia, because she had both hands and wings. Soma quietly said that she reminds him of an angel. However, none of them even heard about something like that. He asked directly, "Did none heard about angels?" Aina heard this word for the first time in life. Lena has never heard him before. For Shayla, such creatures were also news. It turns out that it is really a very rare creature. But the catfish did not hesitate. He realized that it would become another obstacle on their road. The battle with a mysterious enemy broke out in the destroyed walls. The catfish became the first to decide. Ain couldn't believe her eyes. This creature managed to repel all his blows. She reached for help, but Lena firmly said she would not risk her life. Sheila agreed that even if they wanted to help him, they would only hurt him. The catfish was stunned. This illusion of the angel was extremely powerful. But why no one knows anything about angels? Sheila recalled that the creatures of the illusory type often go beyond human perception. They, like dragons, can choose a look that can be terrified of a person. That's how illusions appear in the world. The catfish is convinced that if no one has heard about angels, then they cannot exist. Despite everything, my knowledge of the monster from the past life is almost completely in line with what are here. The only thing that really was a surprise is the appearance of angels, because they have not even heard about them before. But who are these mysterious creatures? Maybe someone wants to make a creature similar to an angel. Most likely it is some special biological weapon. Some believe that angels were really in our world. Sheila asked if it was difficult to win her. The catfish realized that he would have to fight. However, if it is delayed, it will slow down their move forward for a long time. She guessed that the catfish had some plan. But he just shook his head and said that the enemy also prepared something of his own. The defense of the enemy was very strong, and the strength to break it was almost gone. Then Sheila realized that she could not leave everything on the pad and decided to join the battle. She is convinced that she will be able to find a weak place in the protection of the enemy. Thanks to her, the battle immediately became much easier. The enemy did not even realize that everything could turn into this way. The catfish struck, just like a real Delta fighter. Suddenly his sword broke. Sheila scared that she didn't want to die. Aina asked what happened. To protect his friends, he used the power that the wooden sword flew into priests. His blow was so strong that the idea of destruction seemed to disappear. The girl was trembling with fear, but over time it became clear she did not die. She is alive. Lena realized that the catfish is going to stand up for everyone. But if he fails to overcome it, they will have to retreat. Otherwise, he simply will not have time to protect his team. Asna and Lena were tasked with acting on their own. She is worried but decided to try. She cannot constantly rely on him. Lena also decided not to stand aside because she would not forgive herself if she did nothing. It's hard to imagine that she can beat so often. Her next blow will be too strong to withstand it. It was at this point that Sheila came in with his sword, just on time. The catfish concentrated all its strength and promised he would end with all one powerful blow. Finally, the mysterious creature managed to win. Lena noticed that with a good sword everything is much easier. Ain was amazed. Sheila was so casually thrilled, and the catfish caught him as if it were a petty business for him. Sheila wondered if it was too risky. But if she did not roll the sword so quickly, they would not have time. If you know where he will fly, grabbing him is not a problem. Aina thought that among all she was here, an ordinary man. The catfish did not quite understand what it was about. But Aina said again that everyone here but her, a little wrong with her mind. The catfish sincerely thanked Sheila for saving it. She sadly said she was her turn. The catfish decided that he only repeated her, because this technique actually captures him. The girl was glad, perceiving it as a compliment. Aina quickly interrupted them. They say, well, we won, and that's fine. But what now? We need to go back? Lena suddenly remembered the sword, because she did not have a spare. The catfish reassured her, saying that she would not worry. Everything she was in place left only to take. He does not feel the curse, so everything is well. The boys continued their way. The catfish did not know that after such a strong enemy they would find themselves in a dead end. But perhaps something new will open before them. This is theoretically possible, but then the key should be hidden elsewhere. Some offered to go back, but the catfish disagreed. He had almost no doubt that his goal was behind this wall. If something happens on the road, it should be destroyed, so I dared to try to break through this wall. The passage remained unharmed. Aina was angry. Again, these strange, incomprehensible reflections. There was no point in returning back. Everything came out as best you expected from the catfish. Ina noted that it is not necessary to praise him because it could become self-confident. So she suggested moving on. Emma did not notice anything strange. As it could be predicted, it is really a dragon statue. But only the altar is not visible nearby. In addition, this statue looks surprisingly strange. If she stands here, then something is worth doing with it. She is so high, almost 5 meters, Sheila said in amazement. Nevertheless, she decided to install an artifact. Everyone felt something important to happen, but nothing happened. Only applause sounded around. The stranger suddenly exclaimed that it was a real pleasant surprise. They didn't even need to look for any keys to the door. He did not expect them to break using force. It really was skillful. He sincerely congratulated them on their success and thanked for receiving such important support from them. The catfish did not understand what he was thanked. However, the stranger did not retreat and assured that their act deserved praise. Instead of gratitude, the guy suggested answering a few questions. The man agreed. At least 100, if only the catfish accepted his greetings. For him, this day was truly special. The catfish decided not to hide his emotions and asked directly, "What is going on?" The stranger agreed, because soon it will still lose meaning. After all, they are already surprised. The statue that stands in front of them is not ordinary. Once upon a time, this illusion caused a terrible disaster for all humanity, which is why it was put in seal. Inside is an evil dragon named Safnir. It turned out that the ball they took was nothing more than the nucleus of Seal. In other words, as soon as they destroyed it, Sheila froze from surprise. In front of her stood the demon, which the elves were stopped at one time, bringing great casualties. The girl was panic. She started to breathe hard and her hands shook. She exclaimed it was not true. But a man with a smile said there was proof, and he is right in front of her. The catfish never heard of this dragon, but in the name already understood. Nothing good should be waiting. He turned to the stranger and asked what he planned to do if the dragon wakes up. He calmly replied that nothing extraordinary happened. It was time for a new mess. The dragon will again bring fear and destruction into this world. Soma thought, the reason seems to be familiar, but is it really possible? If the dragon once managed to seal, therefore, it was already won earlier. If he gets out of control again, he is simply sealed again. However, the man just smiled and replied quietly, "Unfortunately, now he will not work." Once upon a time, the dragon was divided into 12 parts, and each of them was sealed. For this, the elves and the supreme elf gave their lives. Each seal requires 1 elf. They gave 12 lives, but after that victim of elves did not get more. If not memory, the supreme elves were only 6. Therefore, the second time to break the seal will not work. The catfish agreed that this was a big problem. He thought if it is better to get rid of those who wanted to destroy the seal. But the man denied, saying that it was the last seal and worry late. The catfish wondered what they needed chaos. However, the truth was cruel. The chaos was their goal. Their god only wanted death and destruction. Anna does not want to believe it, but this is true. He is really heretics. Although he does not like such a word, he still understands that it will soon cease to have a matter. Lena drew attention to his self-confidence and said that the appearance of one dragon was not able to destroy the world. However, he just smiled and replied that it was only the beginning, because the first dragon will soon come. Even if one of them fails, the situation will still not change. The catfish asked to let him ask another question. He was allowed, and then he wondered why he tells it all. The stranger laughed and said that everything is very simple. They would all die in this place. He then clicking his fingers. The boys suddenly frozen in place as if they were in an invisible force, and they could no longer even move. Anyone who just meets the dragon's view feels the same. Now everyone understood. He really was telling the truth. But because they have broken the seal, they are waiting for a well-deserved retribution. Sheila cried that they did not need any reward, but he still insisted, feel free. They coped well with the task. One of them will be chosen and will receive life as a reward. Such a reward did not please at all. It seemed that everyone was doomed, and only one would survive. Is it a gift? Or maybe rather a curse? Some, as always, perceived everything calmly, although he did not need this award. Unfortunately, there is no other choice. It was sad, but the man encouraged them. Thanks to their efforts, the plan finally shifted. He promised to remember their help. However, he warned, if they do not make the choice now, everyone will die. After all, the dragon cannot be kept under control. Emma realized that there was no point in worrying. He won his opponent with one powerful blow. Did he really believe that it would be enough? Even if he is a strong warrior, now there is a February dragon, which causes fear to the whole world. He hoped that the catfish would show himself better. However, the guy was either scared or lost his mind. His actions seem meaningless as he himself. But if the catfish decides to obey, then it can still be benefit. The man could not believe that this guy managed to cut the statue of the dragon. She crumbled into pieces just in her eyes. It seemed incredible and completely illogical. Did this boy really manage to destroy the statue of evil dragon? The catfish could not realize why everyone was so surprised. For him, it was just an illusion that briefly gained a living creature. If you cause enough damage, this ghost will simply disappear. It was a clear truth. However, the man waved again and stated that it was full of nonsense. His arguments looked silly. In addition, all the efforts invested in 12 seals were in vain. It is painful, but this is the price for a new understanding of danger. Now he is forced to rethink all his plan. Although the situation seems terrible, the catfish asks not to worry. Now, it's no longer a concern. However, after this conversation, let go of the enemy too late. Unfortunately, he is not so meaningless to reveal his true essence right here. Suddenly, Soma remembered that he had long been unraveled. The man could not believe his eyes. His body was dissected, and around everything seemed to be as if he was still standing still. The catfish calmly explained that everything is very simple. It cuts exactly what is in front of him. Now everything has become clear. In fact, he himself turned out to be a real fool. However, the game ended for him. Now it all depends on them. Anna realized that the moment was not the best, but as always, she lacked words. Meanwhile, Sheil asked the catfish, which he had further plans. The catfish quickly realized that they were outlined. Therefore, before destroying the enemy, he decided to know more. By the way, their enemy was a huge cat. The girls looked confusedly after Herd. Aina believed that without catfish, they did nothing. She was convinced that while he is near, everything would be fine. Therefore, it is profitable for them to support and help them. With the dragon, everything turned out to be as easy as they thought. Adults believe that it will be as simple as with that guy. The catfish only hopes everything will happen well, but he does not know where to start. He avoided specifics. Lena advised to look at the territory first, so safer. However, Sheila had a different opinion. Then, it could be too late. Aina supported her. A return may not have enough time. The catfish assured that this place is not threatened and does not need to worry. Lena suspected that he says not just so, but apparently hides something or knows more than she says. The guy explained that the heretics had to act immediately afterwards, so their hiding place, most likely, somewhere nearby. But how to find it, he did not imagine. Soma says it is not necessary to look. If you understand his words literally, this place is somewhat attitude towards their camp. Aina noticed how he grabbed his sword, and from that she became restless. An unknown anticipation squeezed her heart. However, the catfish just smiled and said, "I need not to worry, they say." She exaggerated. Without waste, he immediately undertakes to do what he conceived. Suddenly, the dragon realized that he had lost some of his power. It was strange. Even if it was just a small part, it was difficult to imagine that someone was able to destroy it. But he was not worried. Something unexpected may have happened. But the time has come, and he has no reason to stay and wait. The moment has come to start everything again. He will go into battle again, continuing from the same point where he stopped before. May their battle be a testament to mercy and compassion. In the town of Senfert, located in the lands of the Duke of Numen, in the kingdom, the king asked the question of whether it was true. The servant confirmed that he had already been tested with the magicians and received results. They gathered a huge army. Klaus asked if there was information about reinforcements or ambushes. The servant confidently replied that there were no reinforcements and no ambush was found. Klaus thought the question was meaningless. No difficult ideas were felt. The most dangerous here are magicians that fly, but they are easy to pick up. Everything looks quite logical. At first he was simply offered treatment. There is nothing to think about. The king wondered if the officers reported. The servant assured that they do not know what to expect from the enemy, so they rely on the decision of the king. But Klaus has already made his decision. He decided to go out on his own. The servant hesitantly asked if it was not too risky. The king said it was the best way out, which is why he came here. He is not so calm that to throw his warriors to die without honor. After that, the servant finished his report. The king has high hopes on him. The father of the catfish, known as the King of Swords, stepped on the battlefield. Seeing Klaus, the soldiers shouted loudly. He wanted to figure out what was happening, and the servant stretched him binoculars. He noticed that the soldiers became more confident. No reinforcements appeared. The servant also understood it. No one dares to resist him. The king realized everything. He knew that it was better to attack the first than to sit and wait for him to attack him. The soldiers asked Klaus to leave them at least some enemies. Klaus replied that everything would decide the course of the battle. He rushed into battle. This time he decided to act quickly. His blow had to be rapid. At heart he realized that someone would inevitably hurt. Let them only try to evade. The sword struck with such force that his blow was really devastating. It seems that no one was injured this time. Everything has passed well as usual, but Klaus is still hard to get used to the same. From politeness, he told the soldiers a few words, which was not going to repeat. He ordered that he did not need to run after the enemy, and if someone seems, they would be accepted. And he promised, the one who will tell about their plans will get a special attitude. One of the enemies suddenly stated that he was not going to obey orders. He would decide how to act. Klaus only slightly shrugged on this. They say, I will not be forced, but I cannot guarantee him life. So let him try to survive on his own. And it was at this moment that everyone suddenly turned into the sky. Everyone froze in place of surprise, seeing so incredible that it was difficult to believe in the reality of what was happening. Just over their heads hung a real dragon. Klaus immediately realized that he was the evil dragon before him. But how did it happen? After all, seal from 12 levels could not be broken. At first he thought that he was a familiar creature. But no, it seemed even less likely. But changing the intentions no longer made sense. The man went out to the field, ready for a duel. I made a powerful blow, but my opponent was able to block it firmly. Suddenly, the sword in his hands crumbled into pieces. And it was at this moment that he realized, the dragon returns any blows against the attacker himself. Klaus shouted that the dragon was about to release the flame. It is necessary to hide quickly. To defend yourself in vain, only the escape will save. The magician rejoiced, realizing that he managed to remain unharmed. Klaus was surprised, not understanding how these guys were here. They had to flee. But one of them explained calmly, they were on the front line. When they saw the dragon's breath, they decided to go back. The magicians helped to cover the indentation, and only some people survived a happy occasion. Klaus wondered if they had losses. He was told that people ran to the very end. According to him, almost everyone was destroyed. First, you need to have a sword, or something like that. Without weapons, this is not a fight, but a simple, senseless clash. In addition, it would not hurt to have a good magician. Sylvia was confident in her skills to treat and protect others. He was surprised to meet her in this place. She hurriedly reported something alarming. Her heads raised the thoughts. She did not slow down? Maybe it was necessary to act faster? But Klaus just sighed and said that even if they had learned earlier, they could hardly change something. But Sylvia was not at risk. On the contrary, she used a special way of moving to find herself here. Her sudden arrival worried many in the camp, but it did not stop her. One of the soldiers was about to say something, but noticed that Klaus was still talking. He apologized to explaining that it was very important. The king did not argue. There was no time to say for a long time, and Sylvia was already ready to help. Klaus gave all the responsibility to her, and again addressed the soldier. He said that the kingdom of Richest had already gone on the road. Klaus was surprised. Do these people not see the dragon in front of them? Are they looking for death? This may be their idea. The dragon will not give time to reflection. Klaus makes the decision. Sylvia has to go with him. First, you need to cure her leg. It is time to get together. The most powerful swordsman and the most fair sorcery are going on a hike to challenge the legendary dragon. The catfish stood over his body, as if he had just committed murder. This time they managed to teleport without adventures. Everyone remained in mind, and everything went successful. Sheila noted that no one usually does so. She said that few would dare to. After all, she already had to teleport to the ruins earlier. The catfish noticed a strange thing. Lena does not respond to Ain at all. Aina recalled that some people are very dizzy after teleportation. Maybe that's what happened, and someone is guilty of it. Lena finally recovered. Aina noticed something was wrong with her, looked somehow unusual. But if Lena is just ashamed to confess to something to this boob, then there is nothing to worry. The girl said that everything is fine with her, just a little dizzy in her head, as if she were on the waves. Ina still decided to see, and Lena reassured that she was all right with her. The catfish asked his sister not to be shy and to say immediately if something was wrong. However, she assured that everything was fine with her. It seems that teleportation has succeeded, but now the most important thing is to find out where they got. First, you need to go to the yard and look around. Ina thinks that you can find tips that will help you understand what is happening. They seem to be far away in the mountains. Lena thinks this place may be related to the altar, although she would like it to be wrong, but there is an opportunity. At this point, Klaus and Sylvia had already fought with a terrible dragon. The situation worsened with every moment. The man could not imagine that this fight would be so unfair. Sylvia understood how dangerous the enemy tried to be careful, but she still lacked strength. He pleaded to go to the capital immediately and report her latest events. Klaus confessed that he did not know how much it would stand. He also apologized to her for the insults in the past. He regretted that he was not close when she needed it. Sylvia immediately said that even if he was then, nothing would change. She would still not allow him to interfere. He apologized again, but the woman only replied that she knew. He was no longer capable. The moment she had to leave. In addition, buying 2 magical artifacts for teleportation will hit their family budget even more. They have a smaller radius, but they are cheaper. Klaus didn't even know it. Both did not even have time to understand what happened. When the teleportation has already worked, it can no longer be stopped. "Are you serious?" the dragon said unexpectedly. "Did you really believe that I would just let you escape?" Everyone was surprised to the heart. The dragon suddenly spoke. Did he really decide to shorten his age? Klaus recalled that the dragon was just an illusion. He must ensure that everything looks plausible enough, but does not go beyond common sense. If you break this balance, the world will not survive it. However, this time he spoke aloud, and this will only bring the end closer. The dragon said, "It is strange that they are worried about the one who actually seeks their death. By the way, you didn't think that I didn't plan to kill you? I was interested in watching your actions, although they did not live up to my hopes." Suddenly, one of the soldiers loudly asked, "So he is not going to kill us?" "Yes, that's right," the dragon replied. "But I will destroy you too. And I will leave here. I do not want them to talk. I will be ashamed." Dragon is not at all liked when someone tries to command him. The dragon reminded the man that it is important to remember his place, and everyone else had to remember what he said. This is Fafnir, an ancient dragon, the embodiment of fear and despair. Klaus was surprised and wondered. He even introduced himself? "Didn't I fought with Richest before?" The dragon explained. There was only a pact between them. They freed him from the seal, and he promised not to attack. But it was necessary to bring him here and humiliate him. In this way they violated the agreement. Now, no contract will save them. Does he really want to die? All the soldiers received what they deserved. Klaus realized that he was crossing the border. Emotions really make him stronger, but at the same time pushed to death. His life balances on the edge of the abyss. The man wondered, "Why are you doing it?" After all, illusions are afraid of death. The dragon sighed heavily and replied, "It is difficult for you to understand. However, I will say, that's what my master wants." Sylvia realized that this master was the Demon King himself. It was they who dreamed of dropping. Sylvia realized that she slapped her extra, but Klaus only sighed and said that it was not changing anything. The dragon said further, "He is the owner of death and destruction. If it is absorbed now, it means, so he decided, and his master." Sylvia thought that if she told Klaus that he would cry now, he would only be angry. She realized that she could not become a good mom, so she did not discuss it. Klaus, in turn, also acknowledged that as his father failed. The woman confessed that she still had a lot of unspoken. Klaus suggested talking on, but on the other side. And the dragon decided that if his master wants so, let the whole world disappear with him. But a bold exclamation suddenly sounded. "It is better for this disgusting monster to disappear forever." The catfish already sighted him, and he seemed like a ghost that dissolved in the distance. But did he really disappeared? Sylvia asked in surprise. "Who is he?" The guy said he was a simple sword that just passed by. He apologized for intervening and asked not to pay attention to him. Klaus could not believe that this could happen accidentally. The catfish also acknowledged that their suspicions were quite reasonable. They did not have another choice, so they had to believe. They accepted everything so simple that it even aroused it. It really looked suspicious. But he saved their lives. It would be worthwhile to show distrust on their part. If others have already believed, the Somi also should not give up this trust. But first of all, you need to cope with the dragon. The catfish strongly entered the battle and struck a strong blow. He quickly decided that this was the real body of the dragon. And if so, there is no need to fight. The guy realized that he still needed much to learn to reach his opponent. He may be rejoiced in the fact that he will soon be able to go on a new trip again. The dragon was surprised. The guy not only attacked him, but also managed to repel a powerful blow. Who is he? But the young man himself already explained. He is an ordinary sword, a casual traveler. How many times else do you need to repeat? The catfish boldly said that he would face a dragon. He asked others to take care of the left army. However, everyone could see that those soldiers were frightened and in no hurry to attack. Sophia said everyone, even they are. Klaus thought it was better not to get on his eyes. He decided to take care not only of himself, but also about soldiers. Let the catfish handle the dragon alone. The catfish decided to stop it now until everything went further. In this form, he is no longer a person, but something completely different. No matter how loudly he shouts, he is only a pathetic insect for catfish. The dragon became angry because the ordinary man dreamed of telling him. With such injuries, this no longer seemed so dangerous. For him, the dragon was nothing more than an insect that had just got wings. Like every insect, she is doomed to crawl all her life in a mud and die without changing something. Everyone noticed. The guy actually has extraordinary power. Sophia frankly admitted that she couldn't even imagine how he could rise so high, and now he stands against the dragon. Klaus realized that she did not really know the truth. He was not mistaken. Such things are usually not told. She only heard that he defeated General Demonquar, but even then she could not imagine how powerful the enemy was. It was the first experience for Klaus. Sophia explained, "It is not necessary to write in the reports, and even more so discussion. Actually, that is why she came today, to discuss it all." Klaus noted that he would like to do it in a calmer atmosphere. But now it became clear, Catfish is a real genius. This was enough for Klaus. Sophia also agreed with this, because she believed in him from the beginning. Klaus acknowledged that she surpassed it this time. She immediately guessed that he was he. Was he? But he only had to guess her behavior. She only said she spent more time with him. And only 3 years have passed with Klaus. Klaus wanted to add something else, but remained silent. There was only one thought in his head. How can Catfish be able to overcome the dragon? It is said that a person is not able to kill a dragon, because together with the dragon, a piece of human imagination disappears. At least, so it seemed to him. The dragon could not understand how this guy was evading his blows. It seemed incredible. Such just could not be. However, the catfish was convinced. All this is quite real. He advised the dragon to surrender and calmly accept his destiny. But the dragon refused to obey. He could not afford to lose even less, to recognize the unusual aura that came from the guy. Sophia confessed that she already had this thought. Maybe it's just a dream, I thought. Klaus agreed with me because then everything really makes sense. They heard someone talking nearby. One of the girls shared that he was well familiar with this feeling. The other immediately realized that it was the moment when the catfish saved her. But she confessed that she was unconscious then, and did not remember anything. Lena sincerely regretted everything that happened. Aina did not understand why Lena was shared with her. And Sheila, feeling light jealous, asked if she could get something like that. The parents immediately recognized their daughter. Lena finally addressed them. A long time has passed from their last meeting. But now everyone has the question, how did she get here? Lena smiled awkwardly and said she was just walking, and she got here by accident. But Sophia remembered. Lena had to stay at home and be treated. The girl said that in their country, a long-standing power had awakened, and that is where it all started. Others suggested inventing a more plausible version, but they stopped. The father understood. Lena just went to the catfish. She herself knew that she had no right to appear in the middle of the battle, and honestly recognized it. The catfish asked her to wait, but Sheila cheered her up. Everyone realized that even if they came, nothing would work out. But despite this, everyone made their choice. Klaus has come down with this. He only asked to stay with them. After all, if something happens to them suddenly, it will be very difficult for him to look Somi in his eyes. And it is not easy, so you should not make the situation even more difficult. Lena asked not to talk about it. If she wants it, they did not deny. They gave the word that would protect them, though they understood that if the dragon was attacking, they probably have nothing to answer. However, they did not worry because they believed the catfish did not lose. It is because of this that they stayed nearby. Klaus finally realized that this was the main idea. Their faith had the basis. Lena paid his attention to it. The father agreed that he should not say that, but in his soul he still felt pride. The catfish had already pulled whole pieces from the dragon's body. The creature could not believe that everything ended in that way. She tried hard to protect her master. The catfish realized that this person had their reasons. However, he did not know them. But even if he learned, he could not forgive this. For him, it was crossed out everything else. The dragon was convinced that he had the strength for another battle, but the catfish advised him not to argue and accept everything as it is. The next blow decided. With a huge roar, the head of the dragon struck the ground. Even the dragons did not dare to resist him. Since the black dragon has arrived, almost a year has passed. Sylvia wanted to talk to Klaus and wondered if he had free time. Klaus replied that he was just reading the report. He mentioned that there was another question in which his opinion was important. This, of course, concerned catfish. Until now, the catfish has not yet been recognized as a Newmont family. Now everyone knows about his actions. He was noticed even in Veritas. There were eyewitnesses. Now you have to hope that the kingdom of the Radius will leave him alone. Now they need to demonstrate others what happened and what is waiting ahead, even if it is related to difficult social conditions. Klaus realized that the appearance of catfish could not be explained as if he had come from. He decided, it is better to tell everyone that catfish is his extramarital son. This will allow the heiress left, and it will be the simplest and probably the only way to solve the problem. They will say that they came to the catfish family to thank for the help, and that is when they learned the whole truth. According to chronology, it turns out as if Klaus had betrayed Sylvia, but they have no other choice. Yes, this spot is left in his name, but is it compared to the pain which catfish was forced to survive through it? Everyone will understand that this is only a performance. Perhaps if you talk to catfish, he confessed that he expected such events. Klaus added that he was not equal. Whatever the vowels of those who designed it all, they have already decided to fulfill their plan. Sam and Lena can have any opinion about them, but it is no longer possible to go back. If those two were side by side, it could all be completely different. Sylvia was convinced that, as they quarreled or complained, they would still not allow the country to be in that condition. Klaus just sighed. It was no point in talking about a future that would not happen. These two became the soul of resistance on these lands. It was they who led everyone who dared to oppose the Demon King. However, later, without dare to see a new country, they just disappeared. Now only memories remained about them. Everything that is left for is to do everything they are capable of. Sylvia agreed with him. He was telling the truth. Now they will have to leave someone, because it will simply not work to take care of everyone. And the catfish would cope, she said. Have you finished with this report? Klaus has already looked at everything that was really important. Now it's time to move on. If they continue to work so slowly, they will not be completed even in a few months. Since the last time he appeared here has passed all year long. The catfish conceived another. But in the end, everything turned out better than he expected. The father decided that, apparently, no one would come to say goodbye to him. And the catfish thought that the only one who could come was his mother. Klaus said she had not yet been able to forgive for herself what happened once. But the catfish just waved, they say. It is not so important. Then his father said that his presence in this situation was even less appropriate. She was busy and could not come, and he had free time, so he was here. Klaus asked where the girls went. He hoped that they would go with him. The catfish replied that each of them had their own business, and they warned it yesterday. If his father did not come, he would have left for a long time. The man was glad because everything happened as he wanted. He apologized because he did not find words. Even now it is difficult for him to say something. But he knows. Only one way will help express everything he feels. Take the sword, said Klaus. We have little time. Each of us needs only one powerful blow. The catfish quickly pulled the sword, and battle broke out between them. He once again showed Daddy what he was capable of. Klaus, from the first day, when the catfish first took the sword, he already understood. His son would become stronger than him. Others have repeatedly thrown down that he is too proud of his children. And outwardly, everything looked like that. If he heard such words from someone else, he would also believe that it was true. But on this day, he became convinced. His suspicions were not in vain. The catfish will become a new king of the sword, the most powerful sword that is not equal. He really deserves this title. The guy realized that this title could not just be ignored. However, nothing changes for him. He wondered, does he put any responsibilities on him? The father's answer was clear. This is just the title, so nothing would happen. The catfish learned that it should be at the award ceremony. It was news for him, and from the very beginning it all seemed very boring. The father did not deny but said that the ceremony would only happen after the catfish became an adult. Formally, Klaus will still be considered a sword king. The catfish wondered, why should I wait for the age of majority? The father replied that it is more profitable to them, all for political reasons. They cannot change this. The catfish only slightly shrugged without adding anything more. His father apologized for his time. You didn't forget anything? He asked, looking carefully at the interlocutor. The guy thought and decided to give up. Then his father asked him to be careful. After that, they said goodbye. Lena sighed disappointedly. She never managed to talk to him. There was enough opportunities, but she had lost them. What to do now? She was confused and did not find words. She reassured herself that he was already an adult and will cope. It was not her first thought. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. If you leave it right now, will something change? Yes, it will change. He just does not realize this. Although, how to think, she does not understand herself. Lena noted that someone was going to her. It seems that today is enough. And that's right, it cannot be everywhere. She has already made her decision, and now it is not changed. Suddenly, Aine came into the room and asked why Lena here. Lena asked the same thing, but Aina immediately reminded that she was the first to put this question. She had already found what she was looking for, and now wanted to know where it was. Lena asked if Aina was really sure because the catfish had already left. Aina was surprised why she was still here if she knew it. She may have watched him. It turned out that it is. Aine guessed that Lena had enough time to search. Maybe she has already found what she needed? But Lena confessed. So far. However, she is just going to do this. There is still a chance to catch up. Aine hastened to warn that he had to move faster because the catfish had already gone. There is very little time left. The young girl will remain alive, and the country will be able to withstand. The world has long gone not that road, maybe even better. Lena may still have a chance to do what they are waiting for. The commander said that after all the events, the fighters completely lost their morale. They want war with another state to finally end. The king was angry. He will not allow his country to fall before the traitors. Yes, they hate them sincerely, but it is probably just necessary to put up. There is no other way out. They go this road. The king considered them in vain creatures. He was particularly stronger on demons in which he put money from the treasury. But someone carefully reminded him, did they not fulfill their task? Yes, they lost this battle. But thanks to them, panic began in the enemy. Are they really their fault that the rivals decided victory is already in their hands and did not complete the massacre? The king could not understand who exactly said. Is it a demon? How did he dare to appear here? The king exclaimed angrily. The unfamiliar just smiled and said he first sees him. It seemed that the voice could be understood who before him, but he doubted that the king would notice the difference, because he heard that he was not very intelligent. Hearing this, the king was even more angry, and ordered to get out immediately and show himself. The guest sighed heavily because he had a lot of worries. In addition, he did not come for conversations. The king asked, if not for that, why? Maybe I came to apologize? Although the king himself did not believe that the demon was capable of such. The foreigner again said that the king himself was to blame. He called him a real fool. These words finally angered the king. He found nothing unusual in all this. He was not interested in conversation. He came here to remove unnecessary eyewitnesses. Yes, it was not his direct business, but the other to whom the task was commissioned. Now he came to kill this person. The king tensed markedly. The guest hurried to reassure him, asking not to be offended, because it was his personal choice to deal with demons. If the truth is known, they will have too many troubles, and even for them it will be a serious problem. In a similar situation, everyone would do the same. The king said something, but his voice was almost not heard. There are no words left between them. The killer noticed that all the blood in all. The castle will soon find itself in chaos, and then the whole country. Isn't that a reason to try everything to stop? Destroying the state is not in its interests. That's all. He wondered what to do next. He was ordered to find someone who killed the dragon. But who could do it? After all, the dragon cannot be killed. Only the dragon is able to put an end to his own life. How could they believe that someone was able to win it? He felt the anger of the king demon, and even more so to the former hero. I could not even imagine that their plans would suddenly start to interfere with someone else, not from that couple. Perhaps these people are involved in the death of Albert. First, you need to determine who is suspicious, although the hero feels the suspects will soon declare themselves. Anxiety is already enough. Now is not the best moment to go to the academy, but there is no other choice. It's time to go. Lowton is the main city of the Kingdom of the Radius, its capital. It was the Royal Academy. The director of the academy, Hildegard Lindo, gladly met the beginning of the new school year. The process of finding new teachers has begun. This year, those who wanted to become candidates were much more than usual. Testing each of them will be a difficult task. The reason for this is the unstable situation in the Kingdom of Veritas. Even here it is noticeable how the flow of migrants has increased. After the death of the king in the country, the struggle for the throne began. It is said that it will take at least 5 years to resolve this issue. Some applicants approach the case too creatively. The director sighed and joked that some probably confused the test with writing a forming essay. However, this is not surprising, because the participation in the competition already helps to move in careers. If only people did not try to use it for their own purposes. Finally, something attracted her attention. She suggested that the teacher look more closely, because it is really interesting. The questionnaire stated that it has a sword at a special level. Some have perceived it as a problem, and someone as an opportunity for something interesting. One of the employees worried that in the event of an error, she could be deprived of work. Hildegard suggested looking at the candidate's age, and the woman was amazed. It turned out that the candidate had not even graduated from elementary school. It would be the easiest way to not pay attention to him. However, the director suggested at least talk to him, and after the interview to make decisions. The questionnaires have already been viewed. This time, the teachers were real professionals, even better than usual. Some were pleasantly surprised. Among them were 2 legendary adventurers. Let's see what it will end. Some of my acquaintances decided to stay here forever, and it seems that he almost came. Karen Stamek, who taught magic at the academy, could not believe her eyes. She did not understand what was wrong. She was explained that if she shows it all, no difficulty. Her documents had recommendations from Klaus, Sophia Neumann, Alexis Radius, and Camilla Genefil. Getting recommendations from the Duke, Duchess, and the most prominent adventurer is a truly striking achievement. Karen thought it was not her business. She apologized till she was late and told her that nothing was wrong. Then Karen asked if he knew where they needed to go. Somi was told that he would be appointed to one of the faculties. Karen advised him to go to the landfill, where he would explain in detail. The guy quickly gathered and went there. Although he has not yet been officially enrolled, she has already congratulated him on joining the Royal Academy, checking practical skills. The teacher told the girl that she faces an important goal, and she is still passionate about her. Although she was injured last time, it was not something serious. He reminded her that the testing had already begun. He said she may not rush if he doesn't want to. Maybe she just didn't understand the task? The girl uncertainly replied that she understood everything. She understood that you need to choose the right spell to show your skills. But here she remembered. No one explained what to do with that purpose. She imposed a spell and everything was covered with ice. The teacher praised the choice and said that the test was passed. But first you need to wait for the target to completely burn. She was not the only one today. Now she will need to create another one. Let him think about this as another test, so he can understand more accurately how strong her magic is. Then the teacher gave her the way further. The instructor on the spot will explain where to go. After the girl, Catfish approached the queue. The catfish came to the trial. The girl immediately paid attention to him. He had black hair. Only special people are born with this feature. Black was considered the color of geniuses. The guy asked what he had to do. The teacher said, "Try to hit the target so that I am surprised." The catfish pulled the sword and it surprised the girl because he usually did not do it. She wondered what magic he possesses. The guy called a magical sword. The blow was so powerful that I was barely holding on my feet. The girl stopped, stunned by the fact that an unusual picture opened in front of her. The landfill was so strong that it was supposed to withstand even the strongest strikes of the instructor. But the catfish realized This time he clearly overdone. Everything happened so simple that he doubted for a moment. He failed. Now he has a lot of free time. The afternoon should take place in the academy. He thought you could walk the city so that you were not bored. If it leaves the house earlier, it will not be late. As expected, there were no business in the city in the morning. But even such a pastime is better than just sitting and doing nothing. He hoped to come across something really interesting. At this point, this girl came into battle. She thought, did she not hurry up too much? He started the same attack. She herself would like to understand why she was attacked, but she quickly realized that they were not going to talk at all. So she decided to continue to defend. One of the opponents ordered the girl to listen to his voice and not attack. She gathered the strength and tried not to succumb to these instructions. She realized that his piece was only a mask. In fact, he is also able to kill. The catfish noticed that suddenly it became very loud. He thought for a moment whether to interfere. However, he was sorry if someone would suffer because of it. The headquarters of the Royal Guard. The guy did not expect such kindness. He was met with warmth and kindness. He was very afraid that he would be suspected of involvement. Therefore, he tried not to give himself. And although everyone was talking about Newmont, he did not mention this name himself. Maybe this girl said his name? The king first expressed his gratitude to the boy. After that, the catfish asked, interestingly, what brought the king here? Alexis said that it is quite natural to thank the one who saved his daughter. The catfish thought it was really logical. The monarch noted that the guy had the features of his parents. However, even when the catfish appeared before him, he did not bow. The guy briefly said that there is no time for courtesy. He asked if he managed to find out who was behind it. The king honestly replied that he could not find any traces. The culprits had disappeared, as if they were not. Then the king asked the Sam to supervise the girl, because he could not even approach the walls of the academy. The catfish replied that they are not very close to her, so he could not promise anything. But if she finds herself, he will follow her. The king nodded and said that he was quite enough. He trusts him. He proclaimed that this guy would become the future king among all the swords. He did not mention this title before they met. The catfish realized everything was more confusing than it seemed. He may have such a close relationship with his father because of this. Now the guy thought how to do him with a princess. 6 o'clock in the morning. In the Newman home, the next day began. The catfish, as always, was already on his feet. He did not betray his habit to wake up early. Lena and Ain warmly greeted in the morning. They immediately noted that the catfish again in a great mood and full of strength. Even a father who rarely left home, this time noticed changes. That morning he was free and immediately realized his son was training. Aina remembered how she heard a tale of a terrible monster that could eat the whole forest as a child. Now it seemed to her that it was not just a fiction. Lena also said that this story could have been real. A few months have passed since they settled in the estate of the Newman family. Again and over it is convinced the catfish is really extremely strong. He only has the same action as a hot spring breaks out of the ground. He cuts the sky and accelerates the clouds with one wave. His power is simply impressive. Does he really need any magic? Will he be able to master magic is unknown. But right now is the best moment to try. The catfish with a smile asked if he could disperse the clouds so that everyone could see the bright stars. He became a little annoying because of cloudy weather, because today they had to celebrate the end of the reconstruction. In addition, he still had only a simple sword. Ain laughed and said that it could show the starry sky without crazy duels. She would handle it effortlessly. But the catfish thought it was somehow unfair. Now he no longer wants to hear such words from her. The princess asked for making him wait, but is she guilty? She also suffered. In addition, the catfish still simply wandered the city. He was looking forward to his first day at the academy, so he woke up before dawn. The princess was surprised. In fact, she also considered that way. The guy replied that she should not apologize. He spent a great time and forgot about his worries a little. But the princess felt something is still worried. Catfish looked forward to starting learning. But today only the introduction ceremony should take place, so he decides to calm down and not worry. Even in thought he did not have to take the exam. The princess thought that he had done his task perfectly. The catfish worried that he could cross the border. It is not enough to have the power. It is important to be able to keep it under control. The princess confessed that she sometimes wants to say something really wise. The catfish has no doubt. It will definitely achieve it. She guessed that Soma had already met with her father. The catfish realized that she was trying to hide her princess and doubted whether she would be able to do it when her studies began. She has already resigned to it. She does not want her to be treated in a special way because of her origin. She does not want to look at her as a princess. Soma said she should not worry. She can calmly talk to him, because her origin does not matter to him. If he really worried, he would not communicate with her so cold. But if his words were offended, let her say directly. The girl was a little embarrassed, but assured that everything was fine with her. She suggested that the catfish apparently joined the Faculty of Magic. Her name is Sylvia. Royal Academy. The entry ceremony began. It was said that she would be held in one of the halls. If the catfish was not mistaken, he was ordered to go to the training ground. To all, he was truly giant. He made sure that they spoke seriously. This is how the Royal Academy looks. Instead of the usual landfill, a real arena. He was not mistaken. These people really look like students. The catfish thought they looked confused, because they did not know what was waiting in front. Sylvia agreed and said that many new students came this year. But even that could not fully explain everything that happened around. The catfish realized that many newcomers can be a slight target for suspicious people. She immediately guessed that she was about 3. The girl nodded in response. These people really looked suspicious. But they have already become students of the academy. Meanwhile, the catfish went out into the arena. Initially, she warmly congratulated all students at the Royal Academy. Yes, they are a little confused now, but they will be explained soon. Usually the introductory ceremony is boring, but everything is different here, because it is an academy where talented people fight for the highest goals. She wants to show everyone what is worth. Now they need to show that they really deserve it. The students immediately recognized this girl. Her appearance, gait, and confidence immediately came into the eye. They were facing the most famous adventurer of the kingdom, a real heroine, whom everyone called a silver combat princess. She does not like when she is showered. They will not give rewards here. So if someone wants to like it, it is better to stop with it. Everyone was convinced. Camilla, the famous heroine of the kingdom, stands in front of them. It is one of the strongest adventurers of the whole radial kingdom. Next to her is Beatrice, Knight A-Flower, as well as Ior Kanzaki, a hero from another world. In addition to them, she is held together by 2 riders, who are called the King and the Queen of the Sky. She has already saved many people. They say that even without superhuman abilities can overcome those who have them. Children are told about her feats, as if they are real legends. Now students will have to go into battle with her. Camilla noticed that everyone understood everything. She could not name her name, but before the battle it was necessary to place all the dots above and. First of all, no duels. They should act together as one team. Secondly, what is put on it is a copy of the collar that suppresses supervolvation. In this embodiment, the strength is less, so its abilities were weakened only partially. Even now in this condition, it is able to easily win. Most likely, most of them will build. So she asks not to be angry with her. And you cannot lower your hands. Even when there is no chance, do not give up. Fight, look for strength, and at least try to enjoy it. Camilla realized that this advice was really very useful. Yes, she is the real heroine of the kingdom. However, its strength has limits, and there are many students here, so they still have a chance. One of the girls, without thinking the first, took advantage of their power. However, other students immediately suspected something bad. It seemed that its strength did not decrease. Camilla realized that everyone around surely looking at her and believing, do this collar really works? But even the simplest abilities can become a powerful weapon if they fall into the hands of a real master. Everything is decided by the person who uses them. Abilities are just a tool, and she will show how to use them correctly. Camilla drew attention to the majority. However, one guy did not escape, but took a blow. He owned fencing at an average level, and she is now a little lower. This meant that the guy had a chance to win. The girl suggested joining forces, because only together they have a chance to get closer to her. Camilla was not sure that this attack could change something. The guy with a smile joked, asking if he was not love. He was convinced that if she did not see the attack, he would not be able to defend herself. However, what happened then was really surprised. Camilla has sincerely confessed that if the attack still happened, she would not be able to stop her. However, she added that in this case you can simply move away. He was surprised, because he did not even think that there was such a simple way out. The girl realized that she was too self-confident, and this can lead to problems. If it continues to do so, it will not have time to complete everything on time. The moment has come to focus and act more seriously, and the main dish is yet to come. She suggested going to a real battle. Sam and Sylvia closely monitored what happened in the arena. They noticed how the boys worried, waiting for their exit, because each of them sought to show themselves the best, speaking before everyone. Sylvia realized that with such permanent duels, she would soon be lost. Soma also acknowledged that this issue of time, it cannot last long. During the battle of Camilla, she fought so hard that her axe was breaking. She lifted the sword from the ground without thinking and immediately rushed back into battle. Although Camilla has only a high level of abilities, she may well compete with heroes who also have special talents. Its main power is a unique martial art that is suitable for any situation. She is skilled in any weapon and knows different combat techniques. So for her, a real paradise is an arena where it is fully scattered. Sylvia was convinced that everyone was known to everyone, although everyone else did not appreciate it. Even for Camilla herself, it was a surprise that her axe would be able to break. They were not as weak as it seemed. The moment has come faster. She was already adjustable and became serious. The catfish voluntarily agreed to be next. She agreed, but I remembered. Then they did not give the second chance. Now everything has changed. Now she became a teacher, and he is her student. And Camilla should take all the trials facing her. The guy decided that the perfect time for revenge. She was convinced that the winner would turn out again. But before that, you need to get rid of one annoying part. Camilla broke her own collar. She wondered if someone had any objection. The catfish said he would have denied if she had not put this question. The girl smiled, feeling the time for battle. The battle began. Camilla came out in the arena with her sword and axe, ready for a fight. She hit a lot, but the catfish remained in place. She believed she could simply press him to the ground. But he did not concede. He wondered, is she not surprised? And in response, he heard that there was no need to say what is so clear to everyone. The catfish threw the weapon up, and while still in the air, he had time to strike. He did not expect himself from himself. Camilla just smiled and said that it was just juggling, because the real talents of the catfish are much steeper. There was little time. He asked the teacher to decide faster how much she was going to break someone else's weapon. She said he was a bad warrior because she was just throwing a weapon. He did not find what to answer. The battle did not stop. Camilla again took the first step and rushed. She took everything that happened near and again rushed. Selma responded with such a strong blow that everyone around the surprise. Camilla believed that this time everything would work out. The catfish shuddered with fear when she grabbed a broken axe and hit him as if it were a bow. After that, the girl decided to fight without any weapons, relying only on her own strength. She struck so much that the air had frozen, but this time it seems that the victory was not on her side. Sylvia knew that Selma had a lot of power, but she did not even expect it. It already looked like a real superstition. But no, there are only 2 such owners around the world. It cannot be more, she repeated to herself, trying to believe it. What will happen now? Will they call someone else to the instructor's place? Suddenly, an unknown man in the cloak rushed at someone and attacked. It turned out that this stranger was Sheila. The catfish asked if it was too risky to show who he was. Sheila noted that the academy was not started to walk in the cloak. It is considered impolite, isn't it? He agreed with her and was surprised how no one stopped her. It turned out that she really had a special permission. But instead, she should ask how the catfish recognized her and was able to protect against the attack. The catfish replied very simply. He recognized her on the same cloak that he saw earlier. Her blow seemed too noticeable. Sheila thought a common man would hardly notice it. The catfish thought that if she was better masked, then she may have turned out. At least not like lazy. The girl clearly did not hope that he would expose her. The catfish explained that Ina had tensed too much, and therefore it was easy to see. At that moment, Ina realized that all her efforts were in vain. They learned in advance about the entry ceremony to prepare for a possible attack. Soma could not hide his shock. Did he really manage to pray something? For them, it was a real chance. For the first time, they sought to defeat it. Ina began to read the spell. The catfish realized, the girl is really going to attack. If he does not defend, it can end in his death. It was a maternal spell. He had no doubt. The girls sincerely believed that he could withstand everything. But the catfish thought they really wanted to harm him. Aina finished uttering magical words, and the magic really came to life. Lena was certain that the catfish would withstand it, but still doubted in her soul. Did she overdo it? Anna also agreed with this and noted that others may suffer from it. Anna explained that she could choose who to put the spell on. She just wanted to believe her at least a little. Lena decided for herself. If the fire was still burning, so nothing happened to her brother. At this point, Anna finally realized whose side she chose, and why this guy was still alive. The catfish remained unharmed. He realized that Ina was not an ordinary girl at all, because he has a special magic. Lena wondered how he managed to repel the spell. The catfish replied that he simply waved his sword, scattering the flames. After all, magic will ever end and just continue to wave the sword. Sheila said he was not fully mined, but the catfish asked if they were worth going on. The girls didn't even think to retreat. The catfish effortlessly stopped struck, answering them with light, confident movements of the knife. Sylvia looked at this spectacle with delight and dreamed that he would once be as strong. The catfish realized that it was time to stop. At that moment, the door opened, and the halter of Hildegard entered the hall, greeted everyone with a dedication and official accession to the academy. After the ceremony, the excursion was planned by the faculties, but the students were so tired that they had no effort. The director suggested that everyone return to their rooms and relax. When the next meeting is, she will report later. The catfish caught her look. In silence between them flashed a silent understanding. It took a few days, and the school year finally started officially. The choice of the main courses was really impressed with its variety. Martial arts training. And most of all, I liked the class in magic. In these few days, I have already had a holistic view of what is happening. This is only the first year of study. Therefore, it is not surprising that nothing is completely new. The catfish enthusiastically plunged into books. In this Royal Academy, the library is so large that the books do not list the books here, and despite the selected field of study, anyone can take any book that is interested in. Sylvia looked at him with delight. She is a princess, but it is unlikely to inherit the throne. However, she is proud of her origin and sincerely seeks to be useful to her native kingdom. It is because of this that she went to the academy. Because the kingdom has almost no magical studies developed, but she had a vigor for magic since childhood. Here she first saw how many special people exist in the world. One of them was, Soma captures everyone around. The girl looks at him with a true hobby, because he always knows what to say and easily answers any question. In the fencing lesson, he so easily overcame the teacher, as if he had not difficult. She only had time to think that he decided to rest with his studies, as she saw that he had already plunged into the book again. And she was no less smart than him, did not keep up. Somi noticed that Sylvia looks upset. 2 weeks have passed since the beginning of classes, and it is still not sure whether he will be able to cope with such a rhythm. He does not imagine what he may need, so he reads everything in a row. Now the most useful is a book that tells about the maze. The monsters appear there again, and you can also come across treasures or mysterious artifacts. It was because of this maze that he entered the academy, because it was built just over his entrance. The curriculum even has separate lessons where students learn the features of this place, but only those who have already graduated from school are allowed to visit the maze. I wonder if there is at least some way to get there. When the catfish strolled between the bookshelves, he came across Sheil. It turned out that she is also looking for a magical grimoire, a special book with spells. They and the teacher decided to start learning magic from these things. Grimoire is a unique book that allows you to learn new magic. It is extremely rare and valuable. It can only be found in the maze. Grimoire can be used only twice. Only copies that were already used are stored in the library. Sheila is just beginning to get acquainted with magic, so she is looking for the lightest spell book to better master the basics. She has a long time to try everything she wants. She has never taken Grimoire in her hands. This is a rarity. You will not see such things every day, except in such places. Sheila decided to review what was inside. The catfish immediately warned her that Manusha could hardly understand at least something of the written. And the truth, everything here is outlined by the ancient sacred signs. Only special, selected among many. Shayla advised Somi to read it on her own. Karen couldn't believe her eyes. Does Catfish really understand in ancient writing? He came across records that were more reminiscent of a personal diary. Each grimoire has its own special cover, which cannot be forged. It was definitely original. The Catfish watched a few more pages. All the records were very similar. Even other grimoires contained the same. The teacher noticed it and realized, he really reads books. This is extremely rare. She said that these signs are very rare. Almost nothing is known about them. They only say that the gods were presented. There is even a version that it is a language from another world. It made a strong impression on the pity. Perhaps everything was just as with Jori Kanzaki, a famous hero from another world? The teacher seems to be well aware of such situations. She knows a lot about the maze. She admitted that yes, partly familiar with him. The Catfish immediately asked how to get there right now. Karen realized. He hopes that she will show him the way, although she is only his teacher. Yes, you can enter if you follow all the formalities. It was news for Shayla. She had never heard about it before. However, it turned out that the academy has their unspoken rules. Suddenly, another voice was said. Younger students are not allowed to go to the maze. Yet there is one special exception. The director personally said this. You can take a special exam. The next morning, the catfish first came to this place. He thought, is it the same maze? The director acknowledged that the training ground really surprised much more than she expected. She decided to take the exam. After all, she is the strongest here, isn't it? Maybe the catfish forgot about it. The catfish confessed that if there was another teacher on the spot, he would probably fail to get here. The director, when he heard it, was satisfied. She was expecting gratitude from him. He paid attention to the protective barrier. She explained that he was put in case if the monster suddenly jumped out of the maze, although before it was never. The catfish decided to act immediately. The exam begins, and, as a pleasant surprise, it is immediately transferred to level 10. This is the level of high school where students take the final exams. It will take no more than 2 hours. As soon as the catfish went on a journey, goblins appeared on his way. He said for a moment, "What if someone attacks behind?" But the director assured him that even a whole crowd of people could give advice. The young man felt that he was going out so far. He has not encountered something too heavy. However, one thought that did not rest, it did not leave him. Why does the director speak so unusual? She was amazed and thought, did he ask that? He did not want to offend her. I just didn't understand why she looks and behaves like a baby, though it was really grown up. When did he realize it? As soon as she appeared in front of him, he immediately understood. There was a dragon. She was very afraid that he could kill her. But he calmly assured her that even if he received such an order, he would not have obeyed. He said that he did not tolerate cruelty and does not like to kill. She was upset because she wanted to surprise him very much. Now it became clear why the exam decided to be carried out personally. However, she never answered the main question. By the way, and does the dragons have gender at all? Her body is still small because she has no 50 years. But even when it grows, it will not be very high. However, in her true form, she is a real giant. Even among dragons, she specifically chose such a small body. It is part of her cunning plan to conquer him. She is like a sweet lullaby. The catfish did not pay attention to this weird idea. What are the other seduces? What is all this for her? But she answered confidently. She wants to have a baby. He did not really give her any signs, but Hildegard replied, "You killed me. This is enough." It turns out everything is simple. She wants to give birth to a baby. That is why she decided to become a girl. She thought for a long time what appearance he would like. Some, of course, is very pleased for her, but all this seems like a real madness. Did she specifically return to life here? Yes, this is exactly how it was. He seems no longer remembered what she said. Perhaps both of them have been returned to this world in vain? After all, she was a goddess and could quite arrange such a fate. The catfish asked if the inhuman could have children. She replied that although not a person, her body is real, not fictional. Therefore, this is quite possible. All that remained is to grow up. Another 500,000 years, and it will be possible to think about the child. Then the catfish wondered. She fulfilled his desire because he dreamed of getting magic. He remembered what is the matter. He cannot use magic. That is why she turned to him. She only heard that he was dreaming of getting to the maze. Even the idea did not have what it means. She decided to ask if he could look at his ability. The catfish agreed because she can see the abilities of everyone. The girl thought and began to think about everything. A very long list appeared before her eyes. She seemed to have her skill. But at that moment, Hildegard suddenly realized what the real reason was. He may not be able to master magic, at least so it was stated. However, Soma did not accept it as a trouble. He just wondered, what is she still mistaken? She is able to look into the future. Now his faith has disappeared. The girl became scared because she is guilty of everything. Indeed, now he will no longer be able to use magic. The catfish could not understand what her fault was. Then she explained. When she returned his life, she shared part of his own strength with him. Because of this, his body was damaged. Now he will no longer be able to develop his physical and magical abilities. She felt that she had destroyed it. But the guy was not upset because of it. He always understood that he did not possess magic. But now it became clear why it happened. So there is no need to worry. She has already done a lot for him. She gave him a chance to live in a new way. However, the girl decided for herself. They will definitely have a common child. But he still couldn't understand why he needed it. They did not have difficulty in the 10th level of the maze. The catfish asked the team how much time had passed. It was only 60 minutes. It was only half the time that Hildegard planned. However, she passed the exam without any mistake. The catfish realized that it was reincarnation that deprived his abilities for magic. However, he does not regret, because everything he now owns is more important to him. Does he start regretting it anymore? No. He decided not to think about it yet. If it were not for this forbidden skill, it may even be a little angry. Such a difficult way really suits him. From the excitement, the soul seems to be burning, as a real warrior on the sword path. All you have to do is make even more effort. On the training field for the magicians, the catfish came across Ain. She asked in surprise what brought him here. He just tried to find inspiration, not to do training. But others around, they just train. Some of them seem to be happy at all. The catfish did not recognize the student who stood in front of him. It was noticeable that he was not in the spirit in the morning, and this day clearly did not succeed for him. He wanted to take revenge. Ina said that this is Lars Hofmeister, the heir to the famous kind. At the ceremony, he was certain that he would win, but the catfish bypassed him. The catfish never heard about this genus, and it was surprised. Then he looked at Helen, who was Ain's girlfriend. He asked if everything was fine with her and whether it was kept by Ain forces. She smiled and said that all is well. Ain is a wonderful girlfriend. The catfish still warned, sometimes Ain can be terribly unbearable. The girl laughed and reminded that Ain was standing right. Although this girl seemed fragile, Ain was really much stronger than the average magician. Perhaps she just recognized her special potential. A few days have passed, and the first morning of the maze study has come. Many people gathered, and Helen believed that if there were fewer people, it would be much easier. Everyone was in a hurry, going to the team. Who is more likely to form, he will be able to go first. And there is very little time before the end of the day. The sooner you save the team, the sooner you can get to the maze. But they did not need to rush. The group was almost in full. The group should have between 4 and 6 people. They have already collected 3, so there is another person. Sheila will become it. Lena suggested becoming a heel, but Selma immediately reminded her to return to her affairs. She is a teacher. She has already a lot of work. It seems that it was a group of catfish. He thought that with those who already know, it is easier to work. But Selma noted that he should not be in one team with Ain. Were there any restrictions on this? Camilla said that if they were together, it is no longer a workout. She came here to explain everything. Shayla Catfish can only work with those who are the front line. Ain is only suitable for those who are from the rear. If they connect with someone of the same type, others will not be able to prove themselves. The catfish denied because he was a magician. She replied to it, "Did you ever use your magic here?" Aina resigned with circumstances and went to look for 3 for the front line. Sheila had to find someone for the rear. The catfish also had to find their people. But were there those who can be taken? Lena wondered why her brother was all avoiding and did not want to join with him. She was sure that he should like people. Camilla calmly explained, "Everyone knows that Ain and Sheila have special skills, but no one knows anything about the Sam." It only annoyed her. But the catfish does not stop. It continues to look for its answer. He asks Helen if she has already decided on whom. It seemed to him that she was left alone because she wanted to be with him. But maybe he was wrong. Helen thought he was only burdening it with her presence, but the catfish thought differently. He felt superfluous, as if no one needed him. But everything was different with her. If she called, he would have gone with her without hesitation. The catfish suggested working together. She trusts him. Helen did not know how to say it, but there was still someone else who watched them closely. The catfish also paid attention to it and asked to be named. Lars named his name and advised to remember him. But the catfish confessed that he was hearing it for the first time, and explained that now in search of a person for his team. Lars realized that he wanted to invite him to the team, although in fact he was called to other groups. The catfish was already going to go, but Lars quickly agreed to join them. Another participant remained when the majority had already grown into their groups. Wars cast his gaze on a girl standing alone. Everyone paid attention to her. She stood alone and did not talk to anyone. The catfish dared to take a step forward and went closer. Helen did not argue. At this point, the village came to her. The catfish called Sylvia to become part of their team. He did not insist. If she already had her own team or just had no desire to join, it would not have become a problem. But in the end, the princess still agreed. Everyone was glad that she joined the team. The catfish decided that they would go to the maze by this composition. But Sylvia still hesitated whether they would be able to cope, even despite the Soma. If everyone agrees, he wants to try to go this way with this team. If they do not cope, they will always be able to return and find reinforcements. The catfish came to the teacher and spoke with her. He reported that their team was ready to go to the maze. Sylvia was surprised because she had the idea that someone had to go earlier. Karen explained that it usually happens, but this year everyone became very careful. Lars could not understand why so much caution here. He believed that these people were simply afraid or not knowing what they were doing. Maybe he was right. The teacher agreed. It is better to consult before going, but true experience comes only with practice. And you can understand others too, because no one knows what dangers the maze hides. It's time to go to the room. Everyone appeared in front of Kern, a third school student who was to become their leader. The boys were surprised. Kot goes to high school, but in appearance, he is the same as them. It's time to go on the road. As soon as they got into the maze, they immediately attacked goblins. Lars sincerely thanked the Somi for his support. He confidently stated that other time they would cope on their own. He believed that he was skillfully possessing the sword, and therefore did not see the need in magic. That's how he met the catfish. Lars decided to cope with the next goblin on his own. Kurt noticed that his help seems to be needed here. The catfish holds protection from the rear, while not forgetting to give clear teams. He was already in the maze, so he has the necessary experience. These three do not even know it. But how skilled is he really, right? The enemies were overcome and the company moved forward. The catfish wondered how everyone has a mood. He and Lars had already felt fatigue. Almost an hour passed. Sylvia also felt fatigue. Helen said honestly that the forces are over, but she was still able to take a few steps. The catfish supported this decision. Continue movement, but without unnecessary tension. On the way, they met only one goblin. Lars decided to cope with him, but the catfish ahead of Lars, allegedly by accident. He said that there is only one goblin that you can handle quickly. Lars did not argue, but still decided that the next would be him. The catfish advised him not to lose his vigilance. Suddenly, Kore froze from anxiety. The hobgoblin, much larger and stronger than usual, died in front of them. This should not meet on the ground floor. Is it really just left here? Corette believed that it would be bored here, but it seems that everything is just beginning. A few days have passed. The princess was again found lying on the floor, and this time she even opened her eyes. Is that a real lady? In the hands of the girl lay a novel writing Lady Sylvia, and the main character of this book was herself. The princess immediately grabbed the book. It seemed to her that it was very kind. In her opinion, if Sylvia were really serious, she would not hide anything. The princess thought that Sylvia was speaking on her talent. Sylvia thought that he was kinder. The maid was surprised, because for her the princess still remained the same cute. Sylvia did not remember what he used to be. Then she wondered what Mary came. She replied that she came to clean the bed. But not only did it attract attention, it seemed that Sylvia was sad. I wanted to cheer her up. She felt that something unpleasant happened in the academy, and it turned out to be true. The princess asked if she had at least some talent. Maria immediately warned, "It is not necessary to say this aloud. It can have unpleasant consequences." Even after such words, she has a desire to study the princess. If your skills are already at an average level, you can already be useful. But the academy has those who have mastered their business perfectly. Those who have at least one skill already seem much stronger. Maria was convinced that she didn't need to worry so much. She felt more power than it seemed at first glance. Sylvia agreed that perhaps Maria law. However, the maid doubted that her support would change something. She decided to allow Mary to act at her own discretion. Sylvia, which belongs to the royal family, can only visit the house every 2 weeks. However, she is not allowed to enjoy special advantages. She must learn to change. Maria confessed that she would be very lonely without Sylvia, but she sees everyone around, so she wants to do everything she depends on. The maid honestly addressed the lady. "Please do not let me down." The princess just thought that she wanted the catfish to teach her everything he knows. However, the catfish did not understand what it was referring, and suspected that she was putting a test. Sylvia jokingly said that it was her revenge because Soma invited her to join their group. Hearing this, the catfish doubted, or sometimes did not make any mistake again. He asked Sylvia what she wanted. She replied that she wanted to become more useful for the whole team, so she wants to learn how to go the maze better. Sylvia also wants to hear his opinion on this lesson. The catfish gave a few tips. He said that you always need to stay careful and be prepared for something bad. Sylvia remembered that something like this was said in the classroom. We need to be ready because the danger may appear at any moment. If so, catfish, it matters. However, he confessed that he went to the maze only once and had not yet encountered all his dangers. Ina thought, perhaps everything is much more complicated than it seems. But it was not easy to express her thoughts with words. Lena felt that something strange is going with her brother. She was convinced that if there were difficulties, he would be able to cope. But then, they all do not feel true experience. Sheila decided that only without catfish, they could really learn something. The catfish himself acknowledged that he could not predict everything. In fact, everything is often not as designed. Sylvia nodded in response, agreeing that evil often comes when you do not expect him. In an unfamiliar place, even the worst fears can be too optimistic. Sylvia wondered if something was worth planning at all, but Soma said that does not mean that you don't have to prepare. On the contrary, you need to be prepared even for the worst development. The main thing is to learn how to act, whatever happens. Sylvia thanked the lesson, and the catfish remained uncertain whether his words would really come in handy. But to achieve the best result, you first need to weigh all possible options. Moreover, 3 of them have unique abilities. If someone wants to teach it something, feel free. Sylvia will be happy to wait for it. Each of them showed her what was capable of. The second lesson began in the maze. The catfish realized that training was not in vain. The princess was surprised but sincerely tried. Helen is convinced that the perseverance was successful. Lars noted that Sylvia had to handle herself. She agreed with him and even apologized. Lars was surprised why she did so. Sylvia remembered how Lars defended her, and then she could not repel, and now regret it. The catfish assured that she was not right. Helen thought Lars did not expect an apology. Sylvia realized that forgiveness for help, so she decided to thank. Lars grunted in response that everything was clear, could not be explained. He asked everyone to remain quiet. They are still inside the maze. The catfish agreed with that. After training the next day, they were already able to climb to the 2nd floor. Usually, the majority overcomes the 1st floor only on the 3rd attempt, and on the 2nd rise no earlier than the 4th. But they decided to train immediately on the 2nd floor. On the 3rd floor there are quite different monsters. Here you can no longer afford to be weak. It is at this level that the most loss occurs. Excessive confidence after passing the 2nd floor can be expensive. It seems that they have lost their vigilance a little. Kern is glad that he was in this team. The catfish entered the room where he was already waiting for the main opponent of the maze. He asked how to deal with Hildegard and whether it was all right. She said her only desire was to get to the end of the dungeon. The catfish thought that at the end of them there was some valuable treasure, but the girl denied. There was not a treasure, but part of the power of evil god. It was this force that was closed in the depths themselves. Soma could not understand what a girl's mind is. Is it a desire to conquer the whole world? Maybe you need to inform King Alexis. However, the girl immediately denied him. She was genuinely surprised, where he came from, thought at all, and could not even restrain laughter. She decided to explain everything. The force coming out of the fragment causes mutations from monsters. However, if you destroy these mutated creatures, the energy leak stops. That is why the fragment was sealed, so that his strength would disappear over time. The deeper you go down, the stronger the mutants become. Therefore, scientists have explored only half of 100 floors, then down to go too risky. The catfish realized that now monsters did not absorb power, but on the contrary, the power itself rises to the upper levels, and sometimes the most dangerous creatures break upwards. Fortunately, just when everything began to deteriorate, Catfish appeared. Now Hildegard asks him to go down even deeper and destroy mutated monsters. However, everything goes too easy. They have already reached the 85th floor. If she was in his place, she would probably understand all 1-1 alone. The girl fell silent for a minute. It once belonged to special creatures, but now they were too deep, so you need to act carefully. The catfish wondered what she would do if he did not appear. Hildegard replied that she would then turn to his parents or hire famous adventurers. Other groups are already descending in the dungeon. But now, when the catfish are not nearby, there is an opportunity to act. Helen realized that he did not change anything. He went on vacation at the request of the director. Lars is confused. Does the director ask him for something personal? What happens to him? Sylvia has already adopted the situation and suggested training before the next ascent. There were only 3 of them, so it became a real problem. Lars thought and began to look for another way out. Because yesterday he did not have time to do anything. They decided that this time it would be enough to cope with the first floor. Others hesitated a little, but this task seemed quite feasible. Kurt thinks that if they work together, it is quite real, though quite dangerous. He just came to the academy and accidentally saw them. He wondered if they really wanted to go down. Lars hesitated for a moment, but Kurt cheered him up and said that everything would be fine. He will become their leader. I wonder how far they can get without the support of Catfish. They received permission from the academy, and Kurt promised to be responsible for all and will go with them. They came across many different things, but a real treasure that would allow the Somi to use magic and never found. Even the groomeries found did not benefit, because Catfish are not one of those who are looking for simple solutions. It became more tense, though no one understood the reasons for this. An alarmed chameleon approached the director and Catfish. It turned out that Sylvia had disappeared somewhere. Kurt apologized because he thought he could support the Trinity if something went wrong. However, when they climbed to the 3rd floor, the director advised to stop to look at and decide how to proceed. She asked Kurt to show her the place where he saw Sylvia for the last time. Hildegard was scared, and suddenly the girl is now on the 40th floor. The last thing the teacher remembers is that they have reached the 30th floor. Even if all the instructors would unite, it would be a real suicide. In addition, a boss is waiting on every 10th floor. She just won't be able to withstand it. Only Camilla, Lena, and director still have a chance. But even for them, it will be a very difficult test. Even if they manage to defeat the boss, they will not reach it. The door to the 40th floor had to be closed. The system is arranged so that it is impossible to go twice in a row. Due to the standard path, it will not work. The Catfish realized the conversation was over. It's time to take the case. Helen wondered where they were going. He decided to climb the 40s and did not consider it difficult. I asked Hildegard to spend me because she knows exactly how to get the fastest. The director was also going to turn to me. She asked if I could trust me because it concerns the barrier. Someone would just cut it, but the Catfish decided to make it differently. He suggested that the data and laziness go with him. Dana wondered if he really needed her help. Maybe no, but the Catfish decided that it is better not to try the fate. He asked Camilla to remove everyone from the maze as soon as possible because any force majeure could happen. Recalling a recent case with a student, Camilla realized that it is best to order evacuation. Meanwhile, the Catfish will remain under its close supervision. He did not even imagine that he would have to do something so quickly. He did not realize that the director was so observant. She immediately realized that Sylvia was on the 40th floor. However, do they really believe that this team can save it? Of the 7 heavenly lines, only 2 remained. Here is the one who can defeat the general of the demons himself. Is that exactly him? It is really interesting, but a stranger decided not to be distracted by thoughts. It is time to act. Sylvia could not understand what was wrong. Maybe it happened through the 3rd floor. Or did she get too fond of magic? She was too trusting the abilities of others and, apparently, overestimated her own strength. Now she looks so helpless. The princess very much wanted to be useful for her new country and family, which she had already considered her native. She dreamed of mastering magic and joining the Royal Academy, but when she was there, she realized that almost all of them were better than her in every business. She felt her fear. She just hoped to go unnoticed. Suddenly, the wall near it flew to the piles of a powerful explosion. She couldn't believe what she sees. It seemed to be her last moments, and it was here that she would find her death. But the voice reassured her, promising that she would not die today and should not worry. The Catfish managed to save her at the last moment. The man in the cloak confessed that the academy was even liked, although it is probably already the end of the journey for him. Tiny forces of the evil deity. It is strange that no one has returned yet. Why did it happen? Aina thought. Perhaps the way back turned out to be too complicated. Sylvia apologized from the bottom of the heart, but Sewing still remained dissatisfied. Suddenly voices were heard. It was evident that someone was being carried on stretchers. The director remembered how she forbade everyone to enter the maze. Helen told Somi with anxiety that someone was injured. It became known that Kurt was found with fatal wounds. The academy claims that Kurt fell out of the 3rd floor. However, it is difficult to imagine that a regular schoolboy can accidentally make such a mistake. Someone may be involved with bad intentions. Lars, who was a participant in the Sylvia teleportation incident, disappeared. Larsu is now suspected of 2 events, but these cases are not accidental. They are interconnected and form one chain. It seems that Larsu's teleportation began to be suspected of attacking Sylvia. It seems quite clear, given the whole that Catfish heard from Helen. Only Sylvia paid attention to the trap. She was teleported. Everything looked suspiciously organized to happen by accident. It is difficult to imagine that no one has discovered such a trap before. It was suspected of its one team. If the offender were among them, it could easily be trapped. There were many other possible scenarios. One of them was mortally wounded. His face was scratched as if he had attacked a monster, but a broken hand testified that a man had done. The suspect disappeared as if running away from the scene. Perhaps he is the culprit. Kurt seems to have guessed something, but got a blow when he wanted to know more. But how did it lose Lars? Kurt was considered the strongest student at school. How could a beginner overcome it? Lars came from a noble family. Maybe he had a special magical artifact. Or maybe it was he who prepared a trap. If he is really a criminal, then it is the most logical explanation. It is the advantage of power that places everything in place. But why do him do it? It seems as if he really intended to kill Sylvia. If his purpose was the abduction, it is another matter. But he clearly sought her death. Why? After all, she is not the first contender for the throne. Although there is no evidence, Hildegard suspects that all this is somehow related to the case of Heretic. He argued that they would all sooner or later turn into particles of the dark deity. Although this is not disclosed, the Catfish once after the traces of the same group. It looks like these people began to act more actively. The Catfish confirms it. They got to the 90th floor of the maze. There's very little time left, so you need to move forward. The young man rushed into a clash with the main body of the enemy. The threat from the boss of the 90th level is eliminated. Another obstacle to the fragment of the evil god is overcome. We decided to clean the card to move safely, because in the event of danger, Hildegard will be threatened. Although today the whole maze will not have time, tomorrow we will be able to reach the very bottom. The skeleton disappeared, and the man in the mantle remained confused, not understanding what happened. The skeleton was weaker than the evil dragon, but he could still overcome it, although Aura did not help him. It looked strange, because it was almost impossible to win without external support. Now you have to find the last key. Sylvia did not understand why she was so difficult to tell about the trap. It was upsetting her. It was later revealed that it was not a teleportation trap. She was not like the director's artifacts. The Catfish noticed it, but the princess did not understand how he managed to find out. He said that they used this artifact to jump at once the 50th floor. Hildegard reminded that no one should know about it. She thought everything would be good if only Sylvia knows the truth. However, even the princess herself was not sure whether you could trust yourself. The director explained that they missed several floors. The boss on the 40th is still alive. She apologized, but Sylvia believed that there was no need. Subsequently, it turned out that it was a trap that was stealing a spell, very similar to teleportation. She was simply incredibly lucky to be in this situation, because it could have happened to anyone else. But it happened with her. Otherwise, they could survive the same as Kurt, or even something more scary. After all, she never managed to change anything. Princesses handed a box that did not resemble a magical thing externally. She felt immediately. This gift was intended for her. Inside lay a letter tied with a ribbon of Mary. She recognized the same decoration she once gave Mary, and carefully opened a letter. The princess did not understand what was happening, but she has no choice. The letter was written, to climb to the 3rd floor and find a trap. If she applies medium masking, she will be able to go secret herself. Sylvia realized that she would have to go down. Although not much time has passed from their last meeting, it seemed to her that there was an eternity. It was here that she met Kurt again. She remembered the moment when he was on the verge of life and death. He was glad that he had managed to surprise her. All the difficulties were really in vain. Although, to be honest, everything was predictable. This also applies to himself. Kurt spoke sharply and angrily again. The princess did not hide the surprise. Is it really Kurt? She was sure he was in hospital now, said the thought in her head. But then the guy said quietly that he was not Kurt at all. She saw the height right away. It was the same, but it is not the same person. Someone else just put his clothes and took his certificate. They are so trusting. They bought an elementary focus. This is only in favor of Kurt. He decided to finish this sight. Is she no longer worried about? Sylvia noted that the bound Mary sits next to her. He assured that he should not worry, did not do anything. On the contrary, she was able to injure him, which proved her devotion. And when the girl finally realized the situation, then without the shadow of doubt, almost bit the tongue. Because of this, the guy even wounded his hand. The princess remained alive. He wants her to fulfill his desire. The girl is wondering what he wants from her. Kurt said nothing unusual. You just need to drop a drop of her blood on a black pearl that lies on the altar. Sylvia did not understand why it was necessary, but the guy did not want to explain anything. If she refuses, both will die. The princess did everything as he asked her. Suddenly, darkness dropped around. He himself could not believe that the seal was so easy to remove. She came from a noble family, but did not even suspect that it was here that the share of the force of the evil god was stored. It turns out that the secret was in her royal ancestry. The conductor did not even imagine how powerful it is. It was possible to achieve anything with it. He wanted to check his strength, but at the same moment got rid of his hands and legs. The catfish felt disappointment. Everything happened exactly as he expected. Hildegard believed that such people were very easy to deal with. As soon as you relax, you will lose immediately. This law works for everyone without exception. Sylvia did not expect to see the Somme at all. His appearance was caught by surprise. From their last meeting, a lot of time has passed. But for Hildegard, these years have flashed as if one brief moment. The rival made a mistake. He spoke himself, though he could go unnoticed. The catfish immediately recognized Lars's body, but decided to remain silent and said nothing to others. Kurt suddenly realized that he had been deceived. He never had a special mind, but now it has not changed anything. Next, everything will go easily. The catfish could not imagine how to handle it. This creature did not have nothing attractive. His first words were such thoughts about the monster, or he tried to hide his fear with jokes and sarcasm. The catfish wanted to make sure that Kurt appeared here for the sake of this force. The monster confirmed and thanked the Somi for winning all bosses. The catfish helped him to destroy the seal, and he was aware of it. In fact, Hildegard told him. It turns out that their purpose was this power. The monster did not hide his surprise. In fact, Kurt was the greatest support for them. However, this force was not easy. It had two sides. To dispel this force, it should be handed over to another person. Kurt finally realized that he was simply used. However, those who did this made one important mistake. They did not understand how powerful God was. Its nature is death and destruction. Although the fragment does not open all the possibilities, even it is enough to wake up other forces. Sylvia could not understand why these two behaved so calmly. Then the catfish explained to her that it was just a debris, and it was not necessary to worry too much because of it. The director understood that only catfish could invent and say. Persian realized that he was actually underestimated. The catfish no longer wanted to delay. The moment came when everything should end. Kurt decided to force him to regret that he did not take him seriously. The monster was distinguished by a special power because he had many tentacles. This was what gave him the advantage. Their attacks were intertwined, but the catfish effortlessly cut these protection, leaving many small cuts on the enemy's body. He couldn't believe his eyes. Did the true power of the god of evil before him? Why then he has to retreat? The catfish just recalled that it was just a debris, and be proud of nothing. Alma decided not to rely on someone else's power. Now he will destroy the enemy on his own. The monster did not like such a superficial tone. He absorbed so much strength. The catfish understood that the desire to become stronger is quite natural. However, he knew that the force not obtained by his efforts would always be alien and never felt. He realized the monster moves too awkwardly. If he were more attentive, he could achieve true skill. Kurt felt power, but the catfish had already seen. His energy ends. If he wants to play, then let there be a game. The monster disappeared unexpectedly. The catfish realized that he had missed the right moment. Hildegard realized. This could not be predicted. Sylvia wondered what had happened. She was told that he had removed the restriction before his death. It looked like a real madness. If the catfish only had time to finish with him. Even Hildegard acknowledged that it was impossible to predict. But now, everything has become truly serious. If this lasts more than an hour, the worst case can completely wipe the whole country from the face of the earth. The catfish realized that he had no other choice. He apologized. Now it is only necessary to move forward. But he did not think to sacrifice himself. He just prepared for everything that could happen. It is time, and what happens next, no one knows. Hildegard, too, is clear. She did not plan to tell everything to his friends. He has to explain everything himself, and they were with her too. The catfish promised that he would be full and would do everything he would become strength. Hildegard turned to Sylvia and said it was time to go. They said goodbye to each other. The catfish is ready to act. It was interesting how it would all end. The next day, a spooky, deadly atmosphere prevailed in the same place. There was an extraordinary tension there. Everything around seemed to be a sinister aura. Lena understood that the power of God evil is really huge. It was through this power that the world was created. This is quite logical, but why could this power not show at least a little mercy? She was not admired by such power. Aura of death became more dense every moment. Lena did not even imagine what could happen to those who would accidentally get here. She sincerely respected the manager for her attentiveness and diligence in the investigation, but the mysteries did not disappear. She felt anxious, fearing that she could be called here again. Very little time passed, and she still did not understand why she woke up. This may not be the work of the evil god. Although everything looked too suspicious, she just hoped that it did not herald anything wrong. Is my older brother still alive? She really did a lot to find out about it. Did he suspect her in lies? But he still has doubts. Is everything that is written in this book concerns the god of the forest? The girl asked not to ask her about it. She knows nothing herself, just gave the book further. She said that only the elves worship the god of the forest, but for him, these words sounded as an insult. In fact, she only calmly told the truth, not putting in the words of a drop of contempt. In this world, there are only two divine forces, the god of evil and the goddess. But the elf still believed the god of the forest really is. That is why she was looking for a way or awaken it, or vice versa, to sleep again. The girl is sure that he exists, but doubts whether he really is God. However, the book tells you how to seal it. In fact, to do this, you will have to sacrifice one of your friends. She is not sure that he will hesitate for a long time with this decision. This elves always do. They have such a tradition. Once upon a time, they have sealed the god of evil in the same way. The elf was even surprised that she knew about it. The girl realized that she made a mistake in the calculations. However, she has the secrets he has yet hidden. In response, she added something else. She knows that he is hiding the witch. The reaction proved to be expected, but the case complicates what many are already known. Even if he kills her here, it will not change the situation. The elf decided that even if he releases it, it would change little. However, the girl promised to help. He would tell a lie to confuse others, and thus would give him some time. Need a victim? Let's choose a witch. So one shot will destroy two problems. Even if he now saves her, it will not last forever. Subsequently, you have to decide to sacrifice one witch or all people. The choice here is obvious. The elf lifted the sword to her neck. Sometimes one important victim is more important than many unnecessary deaths. She just shared her mind. He does not have to listen to her unless he does not want. However, she still asked, would she let her go? He remained silent, paid with it, and took away his product. This is where their cooperation ended. The girl realized that she was consent, and sincerely thanked for his care and protection. The plan to return to the life of Lord Demons failed. The evil dragon was awakened, but he died very quickly. The debris was also failed. Every time someone was disturbed, she has not laughed for a long time, but this time, nothing will stop. They always come for 3. The meeting is already close. Sheila and Nana have already seen. Aina decided not to interfere because she was advised to rest a little. In fact, she really needed it. Sheila also wanted to help how the catfish does, but Aina explained that normal treatment would not help if the soul is exhausted. The catfish treats well. Its abilities are stronger than most. He was able to help even Lars when he was in serious condition. He may have coped this time. Meanwhile, Aina wondered in Sheila, which she planned to do on vacations. Sheila decided to go home. Aina immediately realized, now there is Doris. But no. In the forest. It was there that Sheila first saw the world and held her childhood. She wants to go there to look at everything that has happened to her. And yet, I sought to become better in fencing so that you never stay sideways from important events. The girls thought where he can be and what he is doing now. He constantly forces everyone to worry about him. Let him return home sooner. The witch met the boy in a very distant and quiet corner. The catfish realized that he was saved by someone good. He clearly remembered how he injured himself. Its leaves seemed sluggish. He felt that his body was tense, but in general, everything was quite good. The girl looked carefully at the room. The catfish realized that it was this girl that saved him. It was she who found him on the field when he was in danger. The guy sincerely thanked for his rescue. He apologized for looking sloppy and barely moving. The girl smiled and said that it didn't care. She asked if he had not injured because she did not see any wounds. In the pity, only the muscles were slightly twisted, so nothing wrong with him. If he is uncomfortable, he can rise, but the girl again assures she does not mind. His presence does not interfere with her. He needed a rest, and they agreed to talk the next day. However, the catfish mentioned that he had not had time to introduce himself. The girl replied that her name Felicia. She told him that he had a little rest. Her white like snow, hair, and bright red eyes immediately gave out a witch. Everyone considered it the enemy of the world. Witches are creatures that are forbidden, and everyone is afraid. They can be recognized by red eyes and white hair. They say they can bring the world chaos. The one who grabs them is promised unheard of glory. The one who hides, with his family, is waiting for death. Only the Church of the Holy God has the power to decide their fate. The Church of the Holy God is the most influential religion in the world, and almost 80% of people believe in it. The main in this church is the fifth queen of the seventh sky. It was she who proclaimed that witches are evil, because they use prohibited magical forces. These techniques look like real magic. When the catfish first learned of them, he immediately became fascinated and wanted to know more. In addition, he cannot accept what all witches are unreasonably considered enemies, only because of doubtful evidence. Now the catfish is confused and does not know what to do next. Felicia realized that it was not just a guy, but a young warrior with a sword. Probably, he was already dealing with witches. To look for an explanation is now too late. She did not leave the idea of how he looks at her. Did she be destined to die? The answer to this question is yet to come. The catfish rose out of bed and dropped it into the room. She wondered how he was feeling. The guy said he was feeling much better, and thanked her sincerely. But Felicia only shrugged because she believed that she did nothing special. The catfish could not understand what she was talking about. She did not just save him. She also sheltered and fed. However, the girl wondered, suddenly, all this is just convenient for her. She is a witch. The catfish did not expect it to be so sincere. If so, it makes no sense to hide his thoughts anymore. He had the happiness of meeting a witch. She immediately felt that he addressed her in vain, and had an important question for her. Although it happened by accident, he was sure of it. Before him is the forest of witches, a place where you cannot go. However, this forest really exists. Now I realized why no one comes here. Felicia asked to explain it. The catfish expressed that this place seems to be in a different space, so it is impossible to get here from the outside. The girl confirmed his words. This is the rule here. He may have been here by accident, opening a spatial gap. It seemed to the young man that it was quite easy. The girl felt very upset. The place where it got was far from all over the world. That's what Sam said. Most likely, he could no longer go back. She had not yet fully understood the great danger if someone learned about her presence here. Absolutely no one had to know about it. The young man wondered how to change this situation, but he realized that being in a closed space was a trifle, because he just met a real witch. The girl asked in surprise why she needed this meeting with a witch. The catfish said that he seeks to master the art of cursed techniques. Felicia wondered why he was looking for it. What the guy confessed to, his great dream to learn magic. She explained that even if you learn these techniques, it would not give real magic. When the catfish wondered if there was something that could help become a magician, the girl only sadly answered that it was impossible. The catfish decided that if you understand the forbidden techniques, it could tell him how magic works, because these things are something like. She thought that he was ready to become an enemy all over the world for his purpose, and the young man sincerely believed, if he learns to use these techniques, he would be able to become a real magician. This may seem incredible, but Felicia has told the truth. The whole planet will be against it. But the catfish replied, "You will not understand until you try." She noticed he does not think to retreat. Then he asked her if she could teach him. She smiled and agreed. It cooked a healing potion for him. But if he does not stop nervous to walk back and forth, it is better to sit quietly, because otherwise she will simply expel him. The catfish realized that everything would not be easy. Felicia asked him, is he sure of his decision? She was not sure that it would all end after he drinks the potion. In the worst case, the catfish could even die. The catfish confidently said he was ready. In the meantime, Felicia was surprised why these thoughts did not give her rest. She thanked him for his patience and announced that the potion was ready. He heard her voice. Did it just seem? Maybe she really said something. Is it a deception of feelings? Everything did not go quite as it thought, so she just decided to change the group. The girl threw a drop of her blood into the potion and wondered if it was really necessary. Now the potion is finally ready. However, Felicia was still worried. It seemed that Soma may have already revealed the secret of magic. However, this is just an assumption. You should not hope much. The guy swallowed the potion. Nothing happened. The witch was discontinuing. It seems it didn't work out as she planned. However, the catfish reassured her. They say, this is only an unlikely case. Felicia recalled the book where she took the recipe. She thought that if she looked into her before, everything could be different. At this point, the catfish realized she could not read this book. It was a book written in a language that only witches could understand. However, she had no gift to understand such words. The catfish asked her to show this book. The girl removed this thing from the shelf. Book of Witches. If the name is written in this language, then everything inside is too. The catfish wondered in Felicia if she had ever heard of ancient saints. Felicia replied that she knew about their existence, but neither of them met. The young man from the first pages realized that he probably had a recipe for some elixir. When looked at a closer look, it became clear it is just a notebook with records posted without any order. In addition, the records were made by various handwriting. It seems that this book was passed from generation to generation. The catfish just nodded silently when he was asked if he could read it. In the morning, he noticed that Felicia looks tired and exhausted. For her, this morning did not seem successful. A bunch of affairs, which had to be checked, was waiting for the girl. And all this happened after he translated the witch's book. The catfish noted that yesterday, Felicia did not even notice that there were lacking several ingredients. Then he suggested that you pause, relax, and the next day, to find everything you need. So they agreed. Today the girl should rest. The guy expected the ingredients to be much more. Felicia explained that it was a common forest, although it has considerable potential. She added that only a small part knew here. It surprised the Som. Does this forest belong to her? In fact, she does not manage it. People are just afraid to settle near the witch, and there are almost no monsters in these parts. The girl was the first to find a blue flower. This is not surprising for a real witch. Felicia went into the house and said, "I'm home." And the catfish answered her. He became strange, because they returned together. At this point, the catfish felt a slight sadness, because he realized that no one had previously told him this simple word. She always repeated these words. It was her habit. The catfish decided not to go and just get used to it. However, the girl annoyed a little. Felicia suggested taking a short break and snacking. She noticed that the guy was annoyed. The catfish mentioned that the girl did not eat meat or vegetables at all. The witch told that she never got food herself. Instead, once a month she appeals to people to bring her products. At first it was given meat, but it turned out to be so rigid and tasteless that she decided not to eat it anymore. The catfish finally realized she just can't cook. That is why it feeds only on fruits. He asked if she had ever been ill, and she confidently replied that no. The catfish wondered if tomorrow would go to collect herbs. Earlier he advised her to rest more, because they were still collecting little. In addition, good sleep is very useful for health, but it recognizes only those ingredients that have already met earlier. Felicia came across a mandrake and warned everyone immediately. If someone tries to pull it out of the ground, it may die from the shrill cry of the plant. This is why no one usually collects these berries. The catfish dared to try. He struck the stick on the ground. The girl was delighted. He managed to pull the mandrake without harming her. Although I failed to catch all three at once, Felicia noted that he should really be upset. But at the end he demonstrated somewhat interesting. She added that tomorrow he would be able to leave the forest. The girl noticed that the leader of the elves again appeared at the right time. He is always busy. He has little time. If he had been delayed a little, it could violate all his daily routine. Therefore, he suggested that he quickly manage everything, to pay a month in advance. Felicia thanked him, but he just waved. Help is just a gratitude for her support. And yet she felt gratitude for him, because it was thanks to him that she remained alive. Meanwhile, Pete waited patiently to give him the goods. The elf looked at everything he was given, and the girl decided to clarify one thing. Felicia wondered, what happens to someone who suddenly gets here? The elf did not completely go on what she asks, but the girl replied that she just got interesting. He replied that such a person would definitely be grasped, and in certain circumstances, it can be killed. Hearing this, the girl wondered if everything should be the case. It is the fate of the entire people of the elves. The leader answered her question. If there are no more questions, he is going to go. They said goodbye to see a month again. The stranger drew attention to this guy. Felicia could not understand what Catfish came up with. He was so passionate about his thoughts that he just followed her without explaining anything. She assumed that he could be grabbed, but the Catfish assured that he was able to hide well. He realized that his intuition was correct, and she confessed that she trusted too much and was too naive. Soma is interested in a book of witches and wants to find out more about it. Even if he had the opportunity to leave, he would not have done so. On the contrary, it seems better to stay here. He decided to stay a little. Felicia confessed that she had received great support from him. Therefore, she did not see the reason to refuse. They agreed to work together again. However, in the behavior of the Nose and Seven, something unusual was felt. Doris realized everything. She noticed that Sheila, looking at her Patty, often believes that it was still very difficult for her to reach. However, Doris had a different opinion, though she realized that her words would not change anything. She asked him not to apologize, although she felt a slight jealousy in her soul. She was interested in looking as if something had attracted her attention. If she had to decide who to choose, Som with his friends or elves, I wonder what choice she would make. The Catfish asked how powerful this technique was cursed. Felicia has not yet shown its abilities. The Catfish guessed that it was constantly occupied by the creation of herbs. But it was difficult for him to find an explanation. He wanted to see the curse with his own eyes, so the girl suggested going there together. The Catfish wondered why they could not stay here. But the witch explained that this place is not suitable for this. And yet, now the best time of year, he never realized it. They got out of the space. Felicia caused rain, taking advantage of its magic. The guy was amazed at how easily she could control the weather. Now he realized why witches are called special creatures. Felicia was convinced that she did nothing special. But the Catfish understood that only a great magician could afford, because ordinary people were not given the weather. The witch explained that everything decides the character of a person. For example, it is difficult for it to create a flame, but it can cause a drain without much effort. The Catfish was convinced that the curse had more in common with Houjutsu than with simple magic. However, Felicia did not understand what Houjutsu was. Houjutsu is not quite magic. The Catfish once read about this art. His strength comes to life through faith, a sincere prayer to God. Felicia realized that he was talking about it. Even the curse has something from prayer. She remembered how the Catfish already explained, magic can be called if you genuinely believe in God. Soma said that once people could only use the Houjutsu, but over time the church mastered magic to attract more believers. The world has become more cruel. The leader is finally returning home. In the forest of the elves where the spirit of the forest lives, there is never rainy. The elves take water from rivers and springs, but sometimes it is not enough. Then they look forward to a miracle, a witch whose magic can change the laws of nature. This desire comes only from one side, so dishonest. Now he is even more on a witch. Although he is ashamed of it, guilt will not help. Maybe something should be done while there is still time. He saw the same girl again. She explained that only she was hiding from the rain. The rain began unexpectedly, and it was very surprised. She did not even know that the witches were able to cause it. But the elf was unclear why she was here and how she got to this place. The girl frankly said she came here to help him make the right choice. She suggested a wonderful idea, but he didn't want to listen. She would be sad if his people disappeared forever. The leader explained that it was not related to her. He did not refuse someone's guilt. He simply could not find the right guards. The girl warned that the seal is unlikely to last longer than a month. Now is not the time to justify. If you do not want to die, make your choice. At the end of the ends, it was his personal decision. The leader understood everything. He was overwhelmed by some unusual feeling. Sheila went through the forest and suddenly felt something strange. It was covered by a wave of memories. It was nostalgia. They finally saw. The leader was surprised, but she was even more amazed because she was personally met by her older brother. She wondered what had happened. The brother replied that if he said, "all right," she would not believe him. He added that her return was like a sign from above. As a tribe leader, he is ready to act for the sake of all. However, there is little time, so you need to hurry. I will tell the details later. He makes Shield the main support for the whole village. Felicia says Sami that she will not be able to bring her food from now on. The guy realized that the times of joy were left behind. If he fails to leave this place, he will have to destroy the forests of the elves. The girl asked him not to do it, but he did not seem to listen to her. She also referred to him when she spoke. Now the girl apologized that she did not discuss it with him in advance. The catfish did not feel insult, but he was surprised that he was allowed to stay. He realized that he would not be allowed to go quietly. Then the catfish guessed why he was given to be on the holiday. Felicia said something important happened. The catfish realized that the situation is much more complicated than just hiding a witch. Now he needs to act, otherwise he will not be able to get out of it. She seemed to be able to handle herself. The elves have enough strength to create such places. So why is she not able to deal with this problem? But Felicia guessed, if it was so easy, they would not even turn to it. However, she was not explained to her. The catfish could not tread how she would make a decision about something that she didn't even know. However, this is unlikely to be more dangerous than Hildegard. The girl immediately felt that the guy was really trying to help. It became quite understandable of his behavior. However, she emphasized that this arrangement only applies to it. The catfish is not guilty and is not obliged. But nevertheless, he decided to help himself. It helps her much more than she helps him. Felicia agreed, but asked, let him help her only if she cannot cope on her own. Selma nodded to consent. The catfish heard about the forest god for the first time. But the elf did not surprise it. Only the elves know about its existence. It is because of this god that they receive their special forces. The leader immediately guessed whom it was discussed. The young man apologized for the inconvenience, but the leader calmly replied that everything was fine. In general, he should find out the first. The catfish realized that something was really important. During the celebration, a man from local residence approached him. In the midst of a common fun and sunny day, he looked very upset. Although the catfish said it, in fact he does not understand what happened. It is not clear why you can rejoice here. The elf asked who allowed him to appear here, but the answer to it was sharp and impolite. However, today, Elf has decided not to pay attention to it. Subsequently, he still asked to repeat what he said. And the catfish in response asked what kind of holiday it was. Today, people are going to pray and thank the forest spirit. But the real celebration will only be tomorrow. So is it really real? The catfish asked in surprise. And how often do this holiday spend? Elf admitted that he could not say exactly, because past events happened before his birth. This may happen every 100 years, every 100 years. And it was because of this holiday this time by foreigners were allowed to participate. Somi was lucky this time. Finally, the main character appears on the stage.